At
this time, we like to stand for invocation, and that's going to be given by Commissioner Gray.
Heavenly Father, we come before Thee right now in the name of Jesus, thanking You for allowing us this opportunity to come together to handle the county business. We ask that You lead us, guide us, and allow us to make the best decisions for Meriwether County. These things and all things we ask of You in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bill, before we get started, can you turn that here? It's already hot.
For those who are looking on the agenda, we need to make an adjustment to the agenda before we adopt it. We want to amend the agenda to include under new business to approve and sign the GDOT list number 119-199 list of roadways for the use of speed detection devices requested by Public Works and also a request by Public Works to surplus a 1994 Caterpillar DHL tractor type tractor. Okay, with this changing on the agenda, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Hadley and second by Commissioner McCoy. At this time, can I get a vote? All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried with the new adoption of the agenda. Okay, the next item on the agenda is to adopt the minutes from our regular meeting that was on November the 13th. Hopefully everyone's had the opportunity to read over the minutes as presented. If there's any corrections or anything, please let us know. If not, I'd like to get a motion that we accept the minutes as presented. So moved.
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Commissioner Hadley and second by Commissioner Threadgill to accept the minutes as presented. I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, the next item on our agenda is municipal comments. So I do know Mayor Glover was here.
I'm still here, but I will be leaving. I wish everybody happy Thanksgiving. And there's a young lady back here who's doing a school project, and she can't get in. So will somebody kindly vacate your seat so this young woman can get in and complete her school
Is that seat available? There's a seat right here.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. We've got a full house and it's glad to see everybody, but I do want to acknowledge all our municipalities. Is there anyone else from any one of our cities? He's not official. Okay, so no one else from our municipals, so thank you. Moving on to our Constitution officers. We have the sheriff here today. Appreciate you being here. Do you have anything you want to share?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Any other Constitution officers? I don't see anyone else. Well, thank you. Our department heads? Thank you. Anyone else from our department heads? I don't think so. I see the chief, fire department. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay. Moving on down the agenda. The next item is going to be a public hearing. But before we go into the public hearing, I'd like to read the ordinance that the county has regarding public hearing. Hopefully everyone can hear me. Procedure for public hearing. This is under the County Ordinance 16.10-1. The chairperson of the Meriwether County Commission shall open the hearing with an explanation of the purpose of the hearing and a description of the general rules for the conducting of the hearing. The chairperson or his delegate may describe the authority and the role of the commission in any zoning decision. The chairperson or the delegate shall chair the hearing and shall determine the relevance of any proposed comments or presentation to the commission in hearing authorizing. Any person addressing the chairperson and the commission shall respond to questions of the chair and the commission. Remarks shall be made to the chairperson only and not to other members of the commission or audience. Any unusual portions of allocated time unused by either the applicant or the opponent shall not be invalid and proceed on actions taken on the proposed amendment. The following rules of the procedures are governed by the public hearing or rezoning or the similar matters. Special use before the Meriwether County Commission. These rules apply to all such public hearing items appears on our agenda. Once again, I do want to share with you our policy and our public hearing. Once we go into public hearing, each side will have 15 minutes to discuss their issue. You will also have 5 minutes of rebuttal time. That's a total of 15 minutes for each side, not each person, a total of 15 minutes. Once you have presented within that 15 minutes, you will have a 5-minute rebuttal. You should address your concerns to the board, not to the people in the audience, but to the board. If there's several people who wants to speak, and I have a very long list here, we will identify the number of names on this list, and I will let you know. We will divide that up in that time frame of 15 minutes. Or you can elect one person to speak for you for the entire 15 minutes, or you can split it up, whichever works for your group. But once again, because of the time frame that we have, 15 minutes is the max. And your 5-minute rebuttal. And that's for each case. We have a total of 4 cases to hear tonight. We will go into public hearing for each case, come out of public hearing, have discussion, and then whatever actions the board will take will be done at that time. If you have an agenda, it indicates case number 19, 18, 20, and 21. We are going to change that, and that we're going to hear case 18 first, case 20 second, case 21, and then case 19 last. So this is the order we're going to do as far as hearing those in the public hearing. At this time, I'd like to get a motion that we go into public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So there's been a motion by Commissioner Threadgill, and I believe I heard Commissioner McCoy
That's
do the
right.
second. So at this time, I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor? Motion carries. So at this time, I'd like for case number 18 and to come up, and then we will have our planning and zoning director to come and present this to us.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Get my things back in a different order. Bear with me one moment.
Sorry about that.
Okay. We have case number 18, Kendall Lotzie with Ignite Wireless City Switch. He's a representative for Beverly Haynes on mapping parcel 6334. They're requesting a special use permit for the installation of a cell phone tower. The property is located on 30.12 acres at 4714 Chipley Highway, Warm Springs, Georgia. The current zoning is LDR, which will allow cell phone towers with the approval of a special use permit. The 100 by 100 tower site will be accessed by easement off of Chipley Highway under a lease agreement and will contain a 315-foot self-support tower. The subject property is currently under a conservation use covenant, and under state code, leasing a portion of the property for cell phone tower will not constitute a breach. However, that portion of the parcel shall cease to be subject to the covenant and will be taxed at fair market value. The proposed special use is for an activity which is protected by the Federal Telecommunications Act of 1996. Meriwether County zoning ordinance incorporates buffers and setbacks to support the neighborhood while allowing a federally protected tower. Based on staff review and analysis of information as presented, supplemental information as requested, site visit and review of surrounding area, the applicant will comply with Meriwether County Ordinance, Article 9, Communication Tower Regulations. Staff recommends the grant of a special use permit to the applicant upon the applicant's compliance with the following conditions. The applicant shall reserve a 10-foot vertical space on the tower for installation of Meriwether County communication equipment at no cost for the county public safety and emergency responders at a height of no less than 104 feet. Easement access drive off of Georgia Highway 18, also known as Chipley Highway Road, shall be permitted by Georgia Department of Transportation with their requirements for drive access. Emergency 24-hour, 365-day per year contact information shall be provided to Meriwether County Sheriff's Office, Meriwether County Fire Department, and E911. The tower site fall zone shall be no less than 315 feet from all property lines. An engineer's stamp letter has been obtained on file attesting to the fall zone to be within a 100 by 100 area in the compound. Easement access shall have a secure gate to prevent any unauthorized traffic. Buffer required of not less than a 20-foot base width consisting of approved plantings plus a fence. Prior to development, a buffer plan shall be required to show the types and locations of all these plantings. Chain link fencing shall be installed around the entire 100 by 100 perimeter of the leased area covered under the special use permit. Fence shall be a minimum of 6 feet in height and an additional 3 rows of barbed wire at the top. Fence shall have green or black slats or vinyl covering approved by Meriwether County Building and Zoning Department. If the facility is damaged in any material manner, repairs must be made promptly upon notice to the tower owner. If the facility is inoperable for a period of 12 consecutive months, facility shall be removed at the applicant owner's expense and property restored to the pre-development condition to 36 inches below grade. The applicant shall provide Meriwether County Building and Zoning with a plan for removal and restoration of the property at the end life of the facility. Grass, brush, and other vegetative growth shall be maintained at all times for the life of the operation. Special use permit shall allow use of property for one telecommunication tower. The tower height shall not exceed the permitted height of 315 feet. Any required or planned lighting shall be established so that adjacent properties and roadways are not adversely affected and to preclude glare onto or direct illumination of adjacent properties and streets. Should strobe lighting be required by the FAA, dual light systems shall be used. A final inspection by a structural engineer licensed in the state of Georgia shall be submitted to the Building and Zoning Director prior to the Building Department's final inspection of the completed facility. The applicant shall submit a pre-development site plan indicating buffer, grade, and erosion and soil control for the site. The applicant must meet all local, state, and federal regulations governing telecommunication towers. And an FAA determination of no hazard to air navigation letter must be presented to the Building and Zoning Director.
At this time, indicated we have 2 people who want to speak that in favor of it, and I also show 2 people that oppose it. Once again, I'm going to ask at this time to address 2 boards. We're going to ask everyone to be civil. The comments are to the board, not to those in the audience. And this time, those that
Good evening. My name's Andy Rotenstrike. Ms. Hines, I'm the other person on the list. Mr. Lotze has agreed to yield his time to me. Good evening. My name's Andy Rotenstrike. I'm here on behalf of Ms. Haynes and also City Switch, who is looking to construct this tower on behalf of AT&T. Kathy, thank you. You pretty much took care of the first page of my outline with all that information. But a couple of points I would like to make to you. Number one, this application meets all of the requirements of your ordinance. Number two, planning staff has reviewed the application and recommended approval. And number three, we relocated this tower from its original location on the property in order to meet your ordinance provisions. We're not on the highest point of this parcel, which we typically would like to be. But because we needed to meet your ordinance, and this is a 30-acre tract, we were able to adjust the tower to make sure we meet all the setbacks, all the other requirements of your ordinance. So it really gets down to, why do we need this tower, right? If I could, I'd like to hand out to you a couple of sheets. Would you mind? So while my time is ticking down, I'll go ahead and get started. I'll hold it up. So the first page, you have a set of sheets here. Much of this information was in the application that was filed. This first sheet is in essence a site plan. It shows the size of the parcel, which is outlined in yellow, and then what's outlined in orange is the lease area that City Switch is planning to lease from Ms. Haynes. We have the access easement that comes from the south off Chipley Highway up to the square, and the little square is a 100-foot by 100-foot piece of property that we are leasing from Ms. Haynes. We do not have access to any other part of her property except what's in orange. If you turn the page, this is an aerial photograph of, in essence, the same thing. You can see we're going in a field next to a wooded area to the west, and the open field to the east and to the north, and then Chipley Highway to the south. If you'll turn it one more time, you'll see this picture again with the yellow outlined piece of property, which is the 30 acres. In the middle, there's a square that is the lease area, which you saw on the first page. The orange outline is the 315-foot setback. So we're building a 305-foot tower with a 10-foot lightning rod. All right? We have lightning rods on top because you want that to attract the lightning. It's the tallest structure typically around. So if you look at that orange circle, that will show you in the very unlikely event that the tower were to come down. At worst, it would stay on the property of Ms. Haynes. It would not get on the Chipley Highway and would not go on to adjacent property. The next page, I wanted to focus your attention on the left side, which is in essence a drawing showing what the proposed tower would look like. So that's an elevation view. That's the type of tower. It's a self-support tower. It's the strongest type of tower that we build in the industry. It's not similar to the one that's out here. This is the tall with the guide wires. This does not have guide wires. So now what you're looking at here, there are 4 different apparatus on the tower. The top spot is proposed AT&T's antennas. Your ordinance requires that we have room for 4 tenants total. And so those 3 spots below AT&T are made available to other carriers such as Verizon, Sprint, T-Mobile, so that when they decide they need better coverage in this area, they can simply hang their antennas on this tower and won't need to come before you for another tower. If you turn the page, this gets into why we need the coverage. So this is what we refer to as a propagation map. So I'll explain the colors to you, but you can see in the middle the star. That is the proposed location of this tower. The colors are what matter here. So you've got I-85 and 185 to your west. You see there's a bunch of red and yellow around that area. The red indicates existing AT&T sites as we sit here today. You can see along the interstates we've got pretty good coverage. You can see also to the north and to the west and a little bit to the southeast we have some coverage as well with those red and yellow areas. You notice in the middle around the star it's absolutely white, which means there is no sustainable coverage there to connect calls. Whether that's trying to surf on your iPad, whether that's trying to dial E911, your calls will not connect as a matter of rule in these areas. That's what we're trying to fix. Also, this site for AT&T is going to be part of the FirstNet program. AT&T won the bid from the federal government to provide first responders network called FirstNet. This tower will be equipped with FirstNet if it's allowed to be built. So you also have that coverage in the area as well. If you turn the page, that is the exact same map, but with this site turned on. You can see how that one site covers a large part of that area with the red and the yellow for indoor coverage, and then you get into the light blue, which gets into the vehicle coverage. That means you can operate your phone or device inside your vehicle. And then as you get further out into the darker blue, the signal dissipates as you get further from the tower. So this tower will give us great coverage, but as you can see, we still have work to do in this part of the county, which will be hopefully coming to you in the future to fill that gap. But this does a large part of it with this one site, which follows your rule in the ordinance of building the least number of towers as possible to get the coverage we need. Now, the first thing that AT&T does when it needs a site somewhere is it first goes and looks for existing towers. Just as this tower is going to be made to hold 4 carriers, AT&T would much rather go ahead and hang its antennas on an existing tower if it could to get the same coverage. So the first thing we do is look for an existing tower. But there was no tower in the limited search area that we had where we needed to be in order to get this signal. So then we go outside. The bottom line is there is no other cell tower within 3 miles of this proposed site. There is a Norfolk Southern tower, I would call it, lightly, along the railroad tracks a little further east on Shipley, but it's not nearly tall enough, and it's an old tower that likely would not support our equipment. And even at that, it's 3 miles away and wouldn't allow us to get the coverage we need. Because there was no existing structure from which we can hang our antennas, our only alternative is to build a new tower, and that's why we're here today. If you turn and look at this page, this is off the FCC website. I wanted to show you there was no other tower. The only tower listed within 4 kilometers is the City Switch Tower. So we've applied to the FCC. You can see that the status says granted. If it was built, it would say constructed. So our tower we're asking for is the only tower listed within 4 kilometers of this area. So how do we get to this particular piece of property? I wanted to show you this map here. So this large circle, this purple circle, is our search area. In order to get the coverage that you saw on those colored maps, we have to be somewhere towards the center of this circle. If you look in the center, it says there's a dot, green dot that says ring center. We need to be as close to that center as possible. So what do when we don't have an existing tower and we need to build one? We start calling landowners to see if they would be interested in leasing space to us. So every parcel that has a color to it was either researched or contacted. So look at the colors. The pink parcels are all parcels that are not large enough to meet the ordinance. So we didn't consider those because we'd be having to request variances placing a tower on small parcels. The red shows unresponsive or not interested. Those are folks that when we sent letters to either didn't get back to us or responded that they were not interested. The 2 yellow were interested landowners. The parcels were large enough, but they were a little bit further from the center of the ring, which caused some problems and wasn't going to give us the best coverage we needed. The green is the AT&T candidate, which is the site we're here about tonight. You can see that we have a large enough parcel to meet the ordinance. We have a willing landowner that was willing to lease us space. We can't force people to lease space to us. And it's also close to the ring center. So when you get down to it and look at this map, this shows why this really is the only parcel we can be on to get the coverage we need in this part of the county. If you turn to the next page, I just wanted to show this email from the Meriwether County E911. This site will be fully 911 compliant. EMS has requested that we provide space on the tower for them at no charge, which we've agreed to do. We will agree to all of the conditions that Ms. Johnson mentioned earlier. This site's needed for 911 purposes, for FirstNet purposes, and for connection with residences and travelers along that area. So I wanted you to see why we were here, who we are, and what we're trying to do. Now, there has been some opposition to this, and I'll get to that in a minute, but in order to satisfy your ordinance, we have to prove to you the elements of a special use permit, right? And there are 8 of them in your ordinance, and we meet all of them. Number 1, the height of the proposed tower. So we're only asking for what we need. We need 305-foot tower with a 10-foot lightning rod to get the signal and cover as much of that part of the county as we can. to meet your ordinance requirement that we build as few towers as possible. So we meet that requirement. Proximity to residential structures and residential districts. We're located in an open field. We've got Woods to the left, which is the closest adjacent landowner. That house is over 600 feet away, so almost twice the distance from our tower to the closest house on another property. The third item we look at is the nature of uses on nearby properties. They're agricultural and residential purposes. The closest residence, again, is over 600 feet away. Number 4, the surrounding topography. Mainly flat with some gently rolling hills. That dictates our need for coverage, right? We can't shoot our signal over hills. We have to be somewhat of the high ground as possible in order to get the signal to travel as far as possible. The surrounding tree coverage, that's the 5th element. This field is surrounded by trees. It's heavily wooded to the west, which is the side where the closest residence is from another landowner. The design of the tower's item 6, or factor number 6, it's a self-support tower. I mentioned it's the strongest type of tower. And again, the height is only the height needed in order to get the signal we need. Number 7, proposed ingress and egress. As Ms. Johnson said, we're going to have a curb cut on right off of Chipley Highway, and we will not be crossing anybody else's property but Ms. Haynes' property. So we'll have a direct road out to the tower site, which you saw in that depiction with the orange easement. And then number 8, the availability of other suitable structures. As I showed you with the FCC website page, there are no other towers within 3 miles. If we could co-locate and put AT&T's antennas on an existing structure, we would do that. That is much quicker, much cheaper for us, and we don't have to go through as much of a zoning process. So, some of the opposition have been health effects. I think Michael, Mr. Hill will tell you, federal law kind of ties all of our hands on the health effects issues that cannot be considered by local jurisdictions. Property values issue that has come up in some instances. I've got studies done in Georgia that I can hand out to you that have looked at properties near cell towers and have shown what those properties sold for before the tower and what they sold for after the tower was there. No change in value. Then you can look at aesthetics, which seems to be one of the major issues here. Generalized concerns about aesthetics under federal law cannot be considered. And Michael, you may know this case. This case is a federal case. It's actually out of Troup County, Georgia, so right next to us. And then location. I wanted to show you that map with all the colors on it so that we could show you why we have done our homework here when needing to build a new tower, that this is the only option we can put it on to get the coverage we need. So if you have any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer. Yes, sir. It wasn't significant. I think it was around 20 or 30 feet in elevation. But again, that would have given us more coverage. So in order to be 315 feet inside that orange circle I did on your map, we needed to move it here. That tower is over 3 miles because I saw that listed in the FCC website. And when I looked, it did not appear on this search, which was 3 miles that I showed you, but when I went to 4 miles, it did come up. So it's somewhere between 3.5 and 4 miles away. We will probably be on that tower as a tenant. That's what we do. We want to co-locate when we can. I would imagine at some point we're going to be on that tower too. That's right. But, Verizon gets on AT&T towers, AT&T gets on Verizon's, everything. It's a few miles, because there's not a lot of hills. If we had some mountains and big hills in the area, it would be a lot shorter. But it's probably 3-4 miles. That's right. Now it'll cover heading the other way, right, and north and south of the other way, if it's east of here, which I believe it is. So it's a network. It's like a honeycomb. You got to have them fit together to form your network.
Any other Commissioner has any other questions or comments at this time to our representative.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
50 seconds to spare.
You got 20 seconds. Okay. So on my list again, there's two people who are opposing this tower. You can, we can divide your time into 15, or if one person want to take the whole 15. So Chief, please let us know. I have John Sills and Josh McLaughlin. Are they both here? All right. So is John?
Josh will go first, myself. John will go second when I'm done.
Okay, 1 second. So you're Joshua?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
And who is John? Who is John? Is he here? Okay. So are you all going to split this and each one of you get 7 minutes?
More than likely it'll be 10 and 5.
10 and
I'll
5?
go until I finish and hopefully I'll be
He'll
fast.
finish out your time. Okay, so it gives you a total 15. Okay. Once again, just give us your name again so our clerk can make sure she's here to put it in the records.
All right. My name is Joshua McLaughlin. All right, well, in early September, I received a notice that a 315-foot tall tower would be placed next to my home, and I had some concerns. I wondered what the impact of this tower would be on my children and my property. I wondered about the impact it would have on my neighbors. I wondered about the impact on my community. Specifically, I wondered how this enormous metal structure placed at a central intersection of our town, directly in the midst of one of the more densely residential areas of our town, would impact my community. As I reflected on these questions, I decided to go door to door and ask my neighbors their thoughts. So I knocked on the doors of every permanent resident living within a half-mile of this proposed location. I shared my concerns and I listened to their thoughts and reservations. And I am here tonight asking you to deny this request because I received a unanimous message from the Durand community. Every single person I spoke with the exception of Ms. Haynes, the property owner, did not want a cell tower placed at the proposed location. While additional mobile coverage was desired by a few of my neighbors, no one, not one person that I spoke with wanted a tower to be placed at this central location in our town. Now, why was the opposition unanimously shared among my community? The answer to me is obvious. A monstrous 315-foot metal structure at this location represents an egregious, unnecessary, and easily avoidable visual intrusion into our community. At this point, I would like to pause and provide a brief overview regarding some of the federal laws surrounding local governments of the placement and construction of cell towers. After consulting with a personal lawyer, it became clear to me that my community's concerns rest on legal precedent, and I believe it would be useful to clarify both our legal rights as citizens as well as your legal responsibility as a local governance board. According to 47 U.S. Code 332 entitled Mobile Services, and I quote directly from this code, "Nothing in this chapter shall limit or affect the authority of a state or local government or instrumentality thereof over decisions regarding the placement, construction, and modification of personal wireless service facilities." End quote. In other words, local governments, such as yourselves, have been given final authority with regard to whether the cell tower is built, how it is built, and where it is built. This following the statement of the code, the statute provides 3 limitations to the authority that you've been given. The first one is that your decisions can't unreasonably discriminate among providers. Second, you have to make sure that people have access to personal wireless service. And third, your decisions about the cell tower cannot be made on the basis of environmental effects of radio frequency emissions. So, in other words, local governments are permitted through federal law to serve the will of their citizens regarding the placement and construction of a cell tower, as long as the rationale for doing so does not fall within one of these 3 limitations. Furthermore, earlier this year, the Supreme Court of California ruled that local governments are, in fact, allowed to deny a cell tower permit on the grounds of aesthetics. The law used in this case was from the 1996 Telecommunications Act, which states that cell towers, and I quote, cannot incommode the public use of the road, end quote. And according to the judge in this case, incommode means to cause, and I quote his words, inconvenience, discomfort, and disturbance, end quote. The judge concluded that local governments, such as y'all, have the authority to deny a request for the construction of a cellular tower on the basis that the visual presence of the proposed tower would represent a disturbance and inconvenience to the citizens. And this is the main point that I want to make this evening. The proposed 315-foot cell tower at 4714 Shipley Highway represents an unnecessary and universally unwanted visual disturbance. As the tallest building in the town by several hundred feet, the proposed tower would be an egregious edifice of steel right in the heart of our town, and would consequently radically change the visual landscape of our community for the worse. From an aesthetic perspective, the proposed location represents one of the most visually intrusive locations in the area to place a cell tower. Not only is it in the midst of a highly residential portion of our town, but it is immediately next to the central intersection of our community. In other words, this 315-foot tower at this location would, in effect, replace our 150-year-old church and our ancient oaks as the visual centerpiece of our community. And that's not all. If we step back for even a second, it becomes obvious that this whole situation is easily avoidable. Our town is not a major metropolitan area. Durand is surrounded by hundreds, thousands of uninhabited land, which could easily accommodate a tower in a far less intrusive manner. I want to refer to this map. So, each red square on this map represents a permanent residence in our town, okay? So as you can see, the majority of the residents live right here at this intersection, okay? So, this is the location you see in red where they're wanting to put that tower, all right? So, it is right in the midst of this area, which is the center of our town. And if you move just a half mile in any direction, suddenly the density of permanent residents begins to rapidly decline. Instead of a cluster of homes here in the center, what we have is woodland and open land for miles. In preparation for this meeting, I've spoken to 2 landowners, and both are willing to house a tower at the location. One here, right, with plenty of acres of land, one up here just a half mile away. In both locations, it moves the tower away from the center of our town in a place that's far less visually intrusive. And at a half mile distance, the coverage is comparable. And I've only asked 2. I'm very confident that if I went ahead and called everybody else, I'd get a few more yeses. So, let me reiterate. A tower at the proposed location is unanimously unwanted and an egregious visual intrusion into our community that, in my opinion, and in our community's opinion, absolutely unnecessary and easily avoidable. To demonstrate the unanimous nature of this perspective, I refer to the petition that I submitted to the Planning Commission, which contains the signatures of all the neighbors with whom I have spoken. Additionally, I refer to the amount of people, 7 here tonight, who have taken time out of their lives to oppose this, as well as the other 2 meetings that we've been a part of. And finally, I refer to the recommendation of the Planning Committee, who, after hearing our concerns for 2 months, unanimously voted that a tower at this location should not be permitted. And so, in conclusion, I ask that you use your privilege and your power as our local governing board to serve our community in Durand. We do not want our community's future and visual landscape to be determined by businessmen from Atlanta. We want our community to be shaped by its own members, by those who are committed to living in our community and who will continue to be invested in the growth of our town for years to come. Our voice as a community is clear. We don't want a tower at this spot. So please, listen to the recommendation of the planning committee before you, listen to the will of the citizens you swore to serve, and deny this request. Thank you so much for your time.
Can we stop that for direct questions for him, or do we wait till the second?
We have to wait.
We can stop that.
It's stopped right now, you can
Okay.
direct questions.
So that means we,
As you like.
do we stop the clock?
We have.
already stopped.
All right, go ahead. So Commissioner Thurgood, you want to address it?
I do. Can you hold back up the map that you
Yes,
filled up, please? And show me where the company you reached out to so they could build one, which would be half a mile away.
This one right here.
So still near houses, but further away from the center of the...
Yeah, there's
main
about 3 or 4 permanent residents within a half mile of this property, or within at least a quarter mile of this property,
And we,
compared to the 13, 14.
also, I think we'll need a copy of the signatures that they did for our records, if you can...
I can give that to you. It should also be in the minutes of the planning committee, but I'll give it to you as well. Here you go, sir.
Madam Chair, I have a question.
I do not.
We have a question from Commissioner Hadley. I'll use this for a second.
And the one that, a paper that we were given to some parcels that were unresponsive, is there any way if we can figure out if the ones that were unresponsive are the same area where you're saying that you talked to them, that they said they'd be willing to have a
Is
tower?
this one right here? I mean, I could look at your paper and try to identify it.
I mean, I don't know how, maybe.
Yeah, with that law,
You don't see that, I mean,
You
it's
might
not
like to come
true
forward?
size.
Is that okay?
I'm looking through, so I can see, I'm assuming north,
So it'd be this pink one right here. That's it.
pink one, and the one saying doesn't meet code though. If it's that.
It's outside of the circle, it's outside of the...
Well, it doesn't meet code means it doesn't meet our ordinance code, right?
The land wasn't enough land.
Wasn't enough land there for it.
But the couple of unresponsive ones are not far from,
Yeah, they'd be less than a half a mile from where we are right now though. If
I'd be
you
willing to
come
go
in-
door to door and ask if that would be helpful.
Well, I mean, we just had, you know, this one was unresponsive,
Mm-hmm.
but if this one is only a half a mile from the proposed site.
Right.
If you start moving down to one that's unresponsive, one, I don't know what the green spot was here. The area, I mean, it didn't meet our requirements as far as size.
Mhm.
I'm just trying to see how close we're getting back to.
Right.
how many houses are in that area and versus the signatures on there? Does it match up pretty much, everyone for everyone?
Mm-hmm, yeah, there were 2 people who didn't answer the door. But I got everyone else within a half mile to sign my signature, to sign my petition.
How many?
There's 13 households on that petition, I believe.
Let's see that. 12.
That's it.
My question, my
Yes, ma'am.
concern is with the school kids in that area
Yes.
not having access to cell phones or internet. How are they affected? Would that not be a plus for that community?
In our opinion, based on the conversations I had, no one is opposed to a cell tower in the community. People are opposed to the cell phone tower placed at such a central location in our community. From our community's perspective, and we aren't businessmen running these numbers and doing such things, but we are people who care about our community. And a tower right there at the center feels very intrusive to us. Right? So we are more than welcome to working with the board to find ideal locations that don't disrupt the visual landscape of our community.
Now, I assume by what was presented, stating that this area really doesn't have coverage, but it looks like the tower is in the middle of this. Are there major connectivity issues in your local area right now? Cell phone service issues, things like that?
I have a cell phone that I use every day in and out of my house.
How about connectivity?
I get 1 or 2 bars, but it's never fast.
Who's your cell phone provider?
Verizon.
Verizon. So this is AT&T.
Right.
That's a Verizon tower that's going up out there off White.
How far away is that?
It's 3.5 to 4 miles off White.
Which direction is the one? Is it east or west of the
It'll be
one?
going east. Wouldn't it?
I mean, I'm not familiar.
Yeah,
That one's not, it's not standing good.
Is that right? Should be,
it'd be going east.
It's east of the proposed one?
This Bob White, he's a good goes on the west,
I'm sorry.
west.
Yeah, west, that's what I meant to say. West is west. I
The
said
other
it wrong. Yeah. Yeah, I said it wrong. It's west.
Does any other commissioners have any comment? If not, Darren, you would have.
Yes, I just had a question. You have your map,
Yes, sir.
shows, you mentioned, like, for example, up near where the lake is there.
Yeah.
Have you surveyed the people there and asked them if they would be okay with the cell tower?
No, I did not knock on those 3 doors. Well, actually, I knocked on his door. He wasn't home. He
where
wouldn't
is the
answer.
church located?
The church is right here.
Okay.
Was he answering the
About John.
Yeah, and that's a lot of acreage right there. That lake is about 15 acres, and he owns all of that land. It's way more than 315 feet.
Let's do this. You're gonna come up and speak later?
Yeah.
All right, so that we can stay within our time frame and be respected. Let him finish his time unless you're ready to yield, and let him come in and finish it up.
I'm ready if the questions are over.
Okay, so any other commissioner or anyone has any more questions for this gentleman?
Yeah.
I understand about the acreage and all that's available up there, but we don't have any guarantee or even a start of a possibility of that being an area that the landowner would.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this is 30 acres. This is easily 70 or 80.
Just because it's there doesn't
But I don't,
mean-
again, I don't know that.
Right.
All I know is my community, right?
Right.
That's what I know, and that's what I'm representing. I trust that there are businessmen somewhere who can make or accommodate our community's wishes, but as a community, this is very intrusive to us.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Appreciate it. All right,
Madam Chair, we do need to get a copy of that map.
Matt?
Either, you can ask.
once again, state your name and make sure so that our clerk can have it in the records.
Okay, my name's John Seals, and I live directly across the road from the site for the tower. And I guess as a citizen and a resident of Meriwether County, it's just, it gets certain things, or certain uses of adjoining property owners, or, there's certain things that just, you don't mind, agricultural uses, like if they wanted to board horses, or they wanted to let somebody raise some cows. Wouldn't anybody have any objection to that? But there are certain things that just kind of aggravate you that somebody, one of your neighbors proposes to bring in there. And when you ask them and say, we really wish you wouldn't do this, and they still want to go forward, our only recourse is to come to you as a body to say, look, this isn't something that we need or want. And give you another example. If I were to want to put a dirt bike trail and right across, or a race course on my property, and my neighbors didn't want it, but I still wanted to do it anyway, and I want to put some lights up so we can do it all night long, then the only recourse my neighbors would have would be to come to you. And frankly, I would never do something like that, but I would expect y'all would deny that request because it would be so intrusive and obtrusive and unsettling on the community. So I guess that's, Mr. McLaughlin really said everything there is to say about it, but we're just looking to you to protect us and our interests, and we're vested in this county and in our communities, and we want to stay vested in this area, and we just ask you and we look to you for your help. That's all I have.
Thank you. I don't have anyone else signed up at this time in favor or opposing. So the next thing we'll do is,
I have a question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sills, would you come back? One of the commissioners do have a question.
I'm just trying to get a picture of where, I know where Miss Haynes' home is. So this would be beside her home, right? Okay, as you're coming up Durant Highway and we get to Highway 18, where do you live?
I can show you on that map. I live right there.
Is this the house that's right there at the old railroad crossing?
That's Mr. McLaughlin's house.
Okay, and then you must be back in the woods then.
Well, this driveway comes off Durant Highway.
Okay, all right.
So you don't actually come into your property off of this? You come off of this road right here?
Right,
This is coming up
194.
Springs to Durant, and right there where used to be the old railroad track was right there. This is Mr. McLaughlin, but he's back over here.
Yeah, and I've got an open field right across, it goes right over, it views right over to that property.
Okay. All right, thank you, that was my question.
Madam Chair, for the purpose of the stenographer, let the record reflect that he was pointing at the second dot south of the red block on the map that was given by the opponents.
Thank you. Second dot south.
Second dot south.
At this time, based on our ordinance, we do have a 5-minute rebuttal.
Can I ask one more question before we do? I'm sorry. And it's actually toward the AT&T representative.
He's on his way up.
And the chair said you could stay for your rebuttal after.
Right.
You said that you contacted citizens and tried to find that one that would allow it and that property that fit our ordinance. Were there any other properties that were contacted that were a possibility that would fit with our ordinance away from that center point where these citizens are asking? If so, how long would that be?
So we have to limit it within the search area, as close to the center as we can, because that's what gives us our coverage.
How big is it?
It's about a half a mile from the center. So, you know, we first typically reach out to landowners, we look at the tax records, we get their information, and we send them notices, letters. And, a lot of times we don't get responses back, or we get they call us and say, heck no. And we get a few that usually will give us an opportunity to talk to them, and then we have to go meet with them and talk to them about rent rates. Can we use the property? Can we access it? Where can we go on the property? Does it meet the ordinance? So we did that here. We got several no's or unresponsive. We do have 3 sites that we proposed to AT&T that they could use, the 2 in yellow and the 1 in green. They needed the 1 in green because it was closest to the center and it had the ordinance. And we had a really those are really your factors. That's right. Now understand, the further east in that circle we go, that moves the entire coverage to the east. So the people to the west that we're trying to cover will then lose coverage.
So this is my ignorance. So it doesn't actually break in one way.
I'll say that again.
So the coverage only breaks in one way.
It's 360 degrees, but if you put the tower here, you get coverage 360 degrees from here as far out as it goes. If you move the tower here, you get the same coverage over here. I'm missing out now on the people over here. It's like a room with lights. So when you turn on the lights in this room, it only lights this room. If we go in that back room.
I was only ignorant to the tower. So
that was my typical speech answer.
But I admit my ignorance on that. I will be polite. So earlier you stated that it covers 300. So what I just heard you say was that it's a 360-degree area, but if you move that from that 360, then that particular part is not going to be affected, but it's still going to cover. So even if that antenna is 2 and a half miles away from where you're at now, that area is still going to get covered based on what you said earlier.
Not the same area.
With a 3 to 4 mile radius.
So think of the outer edge, the last half mile along the edges of that. That will move, right? So where I had coverage before, none at all. And those are typically the areas we're trying to cover. If we were just trying to pinpoint this intersection, I'm not an engineer, that's for sure. If we just needed to try and hit the intersection here, which sometimes we do, we need to hit a specific area because there's high traffic, lots of residences, we'll build a smaller tower and just focus on hitting that area. Sure, that's all this is about.
Slow it down a little bit and let's try to figure out if there's something else that will work and accommodate everybody. So that's why I asked the question if there were other people. And how, Mr. McLaughlin, how far would you say the 3 houses up were from that center point? 2 miles?
From the proposed location, a half mile.
Half a mile. So if we were able to get something in that area that takes it away from the center, half a mile away,
probably wouldn't build it. I mean, it's just, we have to be in this area to get that coverage, and the coverage is needed there because, first of all, the complaints we're getting from residences and travelers, that's how this all starts, right? We don't just make up an area, hey, we want to be here, unless you're downtown Atlanta. It starts with complaints from our customers that I don't have coverage in my home or my business or I'm driving along this area. And those are the areas that we're trying to cover. That's how this starts. One thing I would like to stress, and what I was hoping to be able to show you in my initial presentation is we did our homework here on the front end. We didn't just show up and say, oh, this looks great, let's plop a 300-foot tower here. That's not how it happens. So we're confined within the search area. We're confined to willing residents, willing landowners. We've got a landowner who's willing to do it at a reasonable rate that we're willing to pay most other landowners. I don't know what these other people might try and charge us. They're going to know they have us over the barrel, right? Number one. Number two, if we move it, we're going to be right back here at next month's meeting with a different group of people arguing the same thing. So how do we respond to them? So we're here because this is where the coverage is needed. Look, as far as, the egregiousness of the intrusion.
You answered my question.
Thank you. Sorry about that. So let me address a couple of points that Mr. McLaughlin and his father-in-law brought into the discussion. Mr. McLaughlin's right. We've got federal law that governs this, and Michael can tell you about that. Michael, I'm going to give you a case in a second, but Mr. McLaughlin did quote to you the federal act about how local governments do have final authority over the placement and construction of cell towers. And the way you have done that, which is the way most jurisdictions have done that, is by passing an ordinance and setting out the rules. And we follow the rules. So, how do you give us a set of rules that we follow by going through all this work and then say, well, we can't have it? That's in violation of federal law. You give us rules, we follow, and then you say still can't have it. Because then there's no substantial evidence that the statute requires, right? What evidence do we have that this is an aesthetic problem? We have some testimony, we have some heartfelt testimony. I get it, but think about it. This is a cell tower, right? There's no noise. There's no dust. There's no fumes. There's no odor. There's no traffic. That's a pretty innocuous use. There's a lot of other uses that are allowed to go into there under your ordinance that would likely create some or all of those issues. This is a pole. I get it. And yes, this will have a light on top. And it will change to red at night, so it's not a white flashing beacon at night like you see along the interstate. We will do a red dual light, which is one of the conditions that Ms. Johnson put in there. you know, this really, yes, I understand some people don't want to look at it, but does that outweigh the 911 coverage, the FirstNet coverage, and all the citizens that you're not hearing from that want the coverage there? The silent majority. You know, I was intrigued by Mr. Seals' dirt bike trail. Back in the day, he used to like doing that. But the same rule would apply to him, right? Yes, if he wanted to put a dirt bike trail on his property, and you had an ordinance that allowed for dirt bike trails if you met certain conditions, like you do for cell towers, and he met those conditions, he would be allowed to put a dirt bike trail there. And that's what we have here. It's a totally different scenario because you've set out the rules, and we've met the rules. So therefore, we would request that you approve our special use permit. Let us get the coverage out there, the 911 coverage and the FirstNet, and let us get this area of the county covered. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to try to answer.
One new question. Okay. This whole area that you just hit, this half mile, right? Towers don't cover 3 miles. Approximately. Less than 4 though, because the other towers don't work. So, up here where this met the requirements here, that's gotta be a quarter of a mile away?
What about the residents around that property?
I understand though, but you've got all this area with no coverage, so somebody's still not getting coverage, even if you put it there. If you move it, somebody else is gonna get coverage that wasn't gonna get it before.
Well, so if we have to move it, it's probably not going to happen, at least anytime soon. We got to start all over with federal regulations. It would take almost a year to get approved. And we don't know what that landowner's going to now try and charge us, right? Because now he knows this commission has voted one way and they're going to try and jack us up and won't be a site that we can use. It was out there. We did our homework. We need to be as close to the center as we can. We have a property owner that's willing to do it. If we move it a quarter of a mile, which is what that is, or less, so 1,000 feet, 1,500 feet, is that going to make that much difference on what it looks like? I mean, I don't think so.
I don't think necessarily what it looks like, but it is where it's located. I mean, this is my area. It is the center of the area there. I agree with their comments on that.
Which is exactly why it needs to be there.
I know, you pull right up to the center of their community, which is a very close-knit community, and it's going to be right there in front of you, if I'm reading this right.
Well, let me just read the federal law. Michael, I don't know if you have this case or have shown it to them, but this is
You have a copy of the clerk?
I have that one, I'm sorry.
We can get a copy. Yeah.
Look, I'm just trying to make sure that we're, you know, all following the rules.
Michael's doing that. May I ask a question? How
Yes.
accurate is this? Pretty accurate?
Yeah, I mean, it's a computer-generated model, but yeah, I mean, give or take. And that's how we determine where some of our coverage is.
This is without the tower. This is pretty accurate. Now, the tower put in, now it's a whole section of something like being covered. So I wonder how accurate the coverage is that I see it, because there's coverage prior to the tower. But according to, projection, there's no coverage in this area after the tower.
I don't know. I mean, maybe you can turn on one and it interferes with the other and creates interference. I don't know. I don't have an engineer to explain that to us. So, Mr. McLaughlin mentioned a California case, which doesn't apply here in Georgia, right? The 11th Circuit is the circuit we're in, so that's the circuit that applies. And the case in Troup County that I mentioned, this is the words that the federal court here said. We conclude that the citizens' generalized concerns about aesthetics are insufficient to constitute substantial evidence upon which a board could rely. Mere generalized concerns regarding aesthetics are insufficient to create substantial evidence allowing for denial of a permit. I guess just think about the common sense of that, right? I mean, everybody wants coverage, but nobody wants to have a tower near them, but you can't have one without the other. So we are trying to do it in the least obtrusive way we can by following the rules that the county set out and by putting a structure here that doesn't cause any harm from odor, dust, traffic, whatever. I just don't know how you can get more innocuous than that. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah. For the opposition, you also get 5 minutes of rebuttal time. You can share it, or one of you can come up, whichever one you so desire. He's setting the clock, so you have a few minutes, right? He's set.
Okay. All right, he's got it.
Skip
set.
it. There you go, thank you.
Okay, I think y'all hit on something that makes a lot of sense, and I don't think it quite got addressed, but I think y'all are seeing it, and y'all about the question you've asked, and that's that if there's a tower that has a 3-mile broadcast that's 4 miles away, then there's going to be some overlap here at this proposed site. The gentleman said he wants to put devices on that other tower that's going in. So they're going to be overlap covering, and the tower doesn't have to be the coverage shouldn't be overlapping. So if it got moved there and they do put their AT&T devices on the other tower, then they could move, 3 miles away and still, 3 and 3 is 6. If it's got a 3-mile radius, you can be 6 miles away and you got 3-mile coverage. That's what I sensed y'all were seeing and hearing. So he's acting like it's just one and only one little dot that he can put this tower, but we know from common sense that a 3-mile radius is going to overlap if he's 4 miles away. So
Before you walk away, Ms. McLaughlin, you want to finish?
I would like to say one other thing.
Sure, you still got.
Okay.
So, yeah, that 3-mile radius, AT&T is in Dallas, I think is where their headquarters are. And if people out in Dallas drew that circle, I trust that they're intelligent and they're doing what they think is best. But they've never been to Durand, Georgia, right? And that's really our point. We're willing to work to get a tower in our community. There are people in our community who want a tower, who want better coverage. That's true, right? We just don't need one right at the center. That's all we have to say. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ms. McLaughlin, before you walk away, does any commissioners have any other comments or statements that they'd like to address?
I do, and I'm sorry, I know I'm talking a lot. I know everybody else is ready to move on to theirs, but you have Verizon. Mr. Seal, you have Verizon, and you have, cell phone service out, and obviously you live in more of a area of greenery and trees. Is there anyone else in this audience that lives in that area that uses a cell phone? What do you have? Do you have good coverage? Here's my point, and
I've got Verizon.
okay, here's my point, and this is for the AT&T gentleman. If they have decent coverage in this area with Verizon, and the nearest tower, I think, was stated to be 4 miles away, and that AT&T has plans to connect into that tower as soon as possible. If that is a Verizon tower, and these citizens living in this area have coverage from that tower, if AT&T connected to this tower for service, would these citizens in this same area now have AT&T coverage if these citizens that have AT&T now are the ones calling and complaining of no service? It would make sense to me that it may extend the AT&T service to that area, since Verizon is located that far and the current citizens having Verizon have coverage from that particular tower.
You can come on up.
A couple of points. Number one, AT&T's coverage and Verizon's coverage is different because they operate on different frequencies. So they're not the same.
What's the difference in the frequency?
I don't know. They're all licensed by the FCC, and if you are on the same bandwidth, you obviously would interfere with each other. So they have to be on different
So if
bandwidths.
AT&T were to connect into the Verizon tower 4 miles away, what service area are you guys hoping to? Because you said 3.5.
Well, first of all, we would be lower on that tower,
Right.
and let me make sure I say this. There's a likelihood that AT&T may get on that tower. To my knowledge, there are no plans for AT&T to get on that tower right now. All right, so let me make sure I was clear with that. AT&T, if they got on that other tower that is not yet built, right? So make sure we know that. Yeah, it's just approved recently. AT&T would be at a lower height, right? Because you stack them vertically. Therefore, their signal wouldn't go as far for height issues. Secondly, they have different coverage due to their bandwidth, so the coverage would not be the same as AT&T's and likely would not reach as far.
So the Verizon coverage right now is not coming from that cell tower because it's not built.
That's
You're
right.
getting it from some of the tower,
It's
from
got to come
somewhere,
from somewhere.
6 miles
That's
away,
right.
10 miles away.
But, you know,
I'm not sure where it is.
a 1 or 2 lines on your phone is not going to get you coverage inside a building like this that's going to be reliable. It's not going to get you, you got a tower right outside here, so we probably have good coverage if your phone carrier's out there. So it's not apples to apples, is my point. AT&T's coverage is not Verizon's coverage. You can't compare the two. T-Mobile's is different, Sprint's is different.
Okay. I'm just trying to get it all straight.
Right, and look, even if AT&T decides to get on that tower, if they did, it may be 5, 6, 7 years down the road. We don't know, right? They're building out Troup County and Muskogee County. We've got sites going everywhere that are welcoming us because they know they need the coverage.
How many customers do you have in that area being AT&T?
I have not looked that up. Enough to warrant them sending me down here to try and get a new tower. I mean, not to sound crass, but I mean, this is an important site. We wouldn't be here. This is important for them to get this coverage in this area because they've got, the rest of your citizens who are the silent majority wanting the coverage. I mean, we all have devices. If you don't have the infrastructure, they're not going to work. Thank you.
You can stay here for just a minute. Is there any other commissioner that'd like to make any comments? If not, I do want our attorney to address, once again, the legal ramification as far as what we as a board can and cannot do regarding this, but I also want to make one statement. It is in regard to our attention to the need for infrastructure, and right now, no matter where you go, it's talking about broadband and how important it is to rural communities. So we know there's a need, and as you stated earlier, your company would not even come if the need wasn't there. I think one of the things that we are also interested in knowing, as different AT&T, Verizon companies are coming, it seems like every month someone's coming to us. The question then becomes, as we're mapping this out as a county, we need to also be conscious of where these are going. We know your business component, but we also as a community need to know. If we just approved the one for Verizon, you're talking 3 miles, and then AT&T comes the next month and you're 3 miles. At some point, this county has to look at the broader picture as well. So I hear all points of this, but we too have to be as cognizant about our decision as well. So at this time, I would like our attorney to address some of the more ramifications regarding towers and what we can and cannot do to some degree, based other than what our ordinance.
That's what I need to know. What can we do? What cannot do?
Well, Madam Chair, one thing that came up here that I had not heard before, and I'd like Michael especially with this question was names, and is it a factor?
I'll get into that. I want to start with the statute. It was pretty well quoted. He had the right sites. I want to reiterate a couple of points from the statute. General policing powers allow the county to make decisions on where you place or modify a cell tower. Okay. And with that said, it is regulated simultaneously by the federal government. All right. And the federal government does have limitations. Two of the limitations I want to point out is, one, you cannot discriminate among providers. We mentioned the fact that we approved one 3 miles away. It could be I'm not saying it is, I'm just keeping the board aware. It could be looked at as if we're discriminating among providers. The other is
We were
that-
told that it was a Verizon tower, we didn't ask.
I understand, but it's, typically we know who the provider is when we're hearing these board hearings. The other thing I want to point out is that any denial has to be based on what they call substantial evidence. That's the word that's used in the code, okay? It has to be contained in the record, and the denial has to end up being in writing, based on that substantial evidence. We heard a California case that was cited. I want to make clear that I'm aware of nothing in the 11th Circuit of Georgia that has based a denial solely on aesthetics. I want to reiterate, solely on aesthetics. The California case is not binding in our circuit. In fact, a lot of the 9th Circuit area is frowned upon in the 11th Circuit, the 9th Circuit. I don't know about the California case. I've never read that case, so I can't point to that. The proponent provided me with a case from the 11th Circuit, and he did quote it a couple of times. One I want to go back to is the section that it talks about in regards to the aesthetic concerns. What it says is that general concerns about aesthetics are insufficient to constitute substantial evidence upon which the board could rely to deny a cell phone tower. It goes on, the next sentence does say that aesthetic concerns may be a valid basis if substantial evidence of the visual impact of the tower is met. Now, again, substantial evidence is more than mere speculation or belief in something. Okay? You have to have an actual evidence before the court. Evidence is also substantial evidence is also discussed in the same case. Again, this is an 11th Circuit case, so this is binding law on our circuit. Okay? And in the 11th Circuit, it does say substantial evidence means relevant evidence that a reasonable mind might accept as adequate to support a conclusion. Okay? But again, it is more than mere speculation. In addition, because I was going to remind the board of this anyway, but health concerns cannot be taken into effect. Environmental effects and the radio frequency emissions are already governed by the commission, and as long as they've already met those standards, we cannot regulate based on those as decided. I'm happy to answer any specific questions if I didn't address what y'all received me to address.
Thank you. Thank you. You did a great job. Is there any other commissioners have any other questions or comments to our attorney? Thank you. Thank you for your time. And thank you, Mr. Clark, as well. So at this time, I'd like to get a motion that we come out of public hearing back into regular session.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Trivia and a second by Commissioner Gray for us to come out of the public hearing. At this time, I'd like to get a vote. All those in favor? We're now back into regular session. I understand this is in District 5. At this time, I'd like to ask if there any other discussion from the board before we ask for a vote. Does anyone else on the board have any questions or any comments or anything they need to ask Kathy or our county administrator?
Madam Chair, I would like to say, and the reason I pushed the aesthetics question, I thought we did have some room there to work. What I'm hearing, purely aesthetics does not work.
Not general without that, that's right.
That's right.
I would just like to say to the board that this is not our first rodeo, that we just came out of a case, that very case with Verizon, where it cost the citizen of Meriwether County money, where we had to go back in and re-advertise and do that case over. And that's because of the law. So I would like to caution us that when we make these decisions, we bear in mind that we don't just answer to the citizen of that community, but we have to also answer to the law of the United States. So we need to consider that and not just be we just have to take our feelings out of it and do the right thing according to the law.
And I agree 100%, but I do think we have to look at the fact that if you have one particular request to come forward and ask for a denial based on something that the federal law gives a very specific says we can't, versus someone coming before us and requesting a denial based on something else that is kind of maybe an iffy, then I do think we have to look at all avenues.
And I agree as well. But it never hurts to try to compromise. And we were able to do that with the other case that you mentioned. And this is, it is in my district, and I guess it's really up to me to make the motion. And it's one of these days that I would just soon not be here. Because it is a difficult situation. This community is not far from me, but based on what the attorney has told us, I don't think we have any reason to deny it, so I have to make a motion to approve.
So you're gonna, is there a second?
I will second, Ms. Beth.
Ms. Mary just Mary did it. So we have a motion by Commissioner Hadley and second by Commissioner Gray. At this time, is there any other discussion? I do want to make one comment, is that it is difficult sometimes to make the decisions that this board has to make, but our decisions hopefully is being made for the betterment of Meriwether County as a whole. We have talked about infrastructure all the time, and broadband is part of infrastructure. It's just as important today as electricity and everything, and it's not always that easy. But once again, everyone's voice is important. We want to hear from everyone, and we appreciate all those who have spoken for it or against it, or who have shared different information with us and provided even for our attorney. So we want to thank everybody for that.
Madam Chair, before you finish, I do want to say that I hope everybody sees that this has been an hour and 20 minutes on the first case. We have questioned everything that we can and tried to figure out to educate ourselves in every part that we can. So that's what we have to do. But like Chairman said, sometimes it is very difficult decisions we have to make. But I do want everybody to see that we have done our due diligence, as Shirley would say.
So we've had a motion and a second and discussion. At this time, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor of approving this cell tower, can I get a vote? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. We'd like to thank everyone for that.
I heard somebody say, thank God.
Madam Chair, I don't know about the rest of the panel, but I wish we could have a 5-minute break.
At this time, there's a request for a 5-minute break from the board. Can we get a vote?
We've been here since 4, I'm sorry.
Okay, we're going to take a 5-minute break, and that may allow other people to stand and stretch as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we're calling the meeting back to order. Ladies and gentlemen, we're calling the meeting back to order. Thank you all. Once again, thank you for your patience, but public hearings are normally very long and very lengthy. Our next case is case number 20, Ms. Vivian Smith requesting rezoning. So at this time, I'd like to ask that we get a motion to go back into public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, there's been a motion by Commissioner McCoy and second by Commissioner Hadley. At this time, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. We are now back in public hearing to hear case number 20. And Ms. Kathy Johnson will give us the information on this case. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have case number 20. I was told to speak into the microphone, so. Ms. Vivian Smith is the owner of map and parcel 7116. She's requesting a rezoning of 2 acres from LDR, which is a 5-acre minimum, to RD, a 2-acre minimum, for the purpose of deeding acreage off of Primrose Road to her daughter for a new home construction. The current parcel consists of 25.3 acres. Surrounding properties are a mix of large and small tracts with private home sites. Surrounding property values will not be affected. No excessive or burdensome use of existing street, transportation, utilities, or schools. This creation of a smaller lot conforms to the comprehensive plan. The property is currently under a conservation covenant from 2019 through 2028. The 2-acre split will not breach the covenant. However, the owner of the newly created lot must comply with the rules of conservation and not sell or lease the property through the balance of the covenant term. Failure to comply will result in a breach with penalties on the entire original tract. The staff recommendation is to approve the rezoning from LDR to RD on this 2-acre split in order for her daughter to have a home there.
Is that it? All right, I only have one person signed up to speak. At this time, Ms. Vivian Smith, you can come up and address the board. You have a total of 15 minutes if you so need it.
Well, good evening.
Good evening.
It's not going to take me long to say what I have to say. She has summed it up very well, but I just want y'all to know that I would be very appreciative if y'all did rezone this, because my daughter wanted to move there, and when they zoned it 45 acres, I was being a caregiver at the time, and I didn't really get a chance to attend to protest or say anything, but now at this time, I would love for y'all to take that into consideration and do rezone it so my daughter can be over there, and we do need some more people in Meriwether County, and I would love to have somebody there.
Thank you. Anything else? I'm sorry, Ms. Smith, before you leave, is there any commissioner that would like to have any questions or statements or comment they'd like to address to Ms. Smith? If not, thank you.
We need to ask for the record, even though they didn't
Yes.
sign.
For the record, is there anyone that's opposing this rezoning? And if you did not sign, please let us know at this time, and you can come up and sign the form. Okay. At this, no one is in opposition of this? Okay. At this time, I'd like to get a motion that we come out of public hearing back into the regular session.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, there's been a motion by Commissioner Threadgill and second by Commissioner McCoy. Is there any more discussion? If not, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Right. This is in District 1, which is the district that I represent. Once again, based on the requirements of our ordinance and what was presented by the Planning Commission, I see no reason that it meets all our requirements. So, and once again, we are always looking forward to have more people moving back in the county. It's definitely good to know that your family wants to be back in the county as well. So at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the request for the rezoning of 2 acres out of the 25.3 acres from LDR to RD.
I'll second that.
So there's been a motion by Commissioner Hines and second by Commissioner Threadgill. Is there any other discussion? If not, I'd like to call for a vote. All those in favor? And anyone opposed?
If I were you, I would
Motion
take the
carries.
rest of the money.
She's been involved in government before, she knows. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. The next item is case number 21. I'd like to get a motion that we go back into public hearing for case number 21.
So moved.
Is there a second? There's a motion by Commissioner Threadgill and second by Commissioner Bray. At this time, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. We are now back in public hearing. And Ms. Kathy, will you introduce the case for case number 21?
Yes, ma'am. We have case number 21, which is JB Communities LLC, requesting the rezoning of 8+ acres from LDR, 5-acre minimum, to RD, 2-acre minimum, to create 4 lots for new home construction on Primrose Road and Ellis Road. The property is known as Tract 1 of map and parcel 49006. Surrounding properties are a mix of large and small tracts with home sites. Property values of the surrounding property will not be affected. No excessive or burdensome use on existing street, transportation, utilities, or schools. The creation of these smaller lots does conform with your comprehensive plan. The property is currently under a conservation covenant for 2019 to 2028. The acreage split will constitute a breach of the covenant. Any penalties arising out of the breach must be satisfied before issuance of building permits. An update to this I did receive from the tax commissioner and tax tax commissioner's office that that property has already been paid on the breach penalties and it is free and clear of the covenant. Our staff recommendation is to approve the rezoning from LDR to RD on these 8+ acres.
Well, I'm not sure. No, what's it? Okay, at this time, for those who are in favor of this, we'd like to hear from Mr. Jason Berg.
Good evening. Yes, ma'am. Kathy said what we were trying to do. It's a little over 8 acres, and we're going to divide them into 4 2-acre lots, which we meet all the 200-foot road frontage and everything that the county requires. And they're going to be single-family homes that we're building currently in Luthersville. They're around 14 to 1,800 square feet, all our houses. We do solid front yard, side entrances. I mean, they're nice houses. And we have people that want to move to the county, but we're just out of lots, and we have people that want to move in, so just ask you, look at it and pass it. Do you have any questions?
Does any commissioners have any questions? Because we still got a lot of time, but, questions? Well, I do. I think for Kathy, just for verification, we want to verify, I do believe this is District 2. But it's not that big of a deal, but we can go back and look at it.
You got District 1 under this case.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So the lots, the way it's showing, the homes are going to be facing Ellis Road?
Well, 2 are going to be coming out on Ellis, and 2 will come out on Primrose.
So the lot that is, we don't have numbers by them, but the one that's 2.62 acres, that's going to be facing Primrose? It's more like a triangle?
Yes, ma'am. This is Primrose right here.
Right. So the one, okay, come up, that lot, this one, that's going to be facing Primrose?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and which the other one's facing Primrose?
This one's right here.
Okay.
And these 2 are coming out.
And those 2 are coming out
On
on
Ellis.
Ellis Road. And Ellis Road is a
It's a
dirt road. And you said your square footage of homes are ranging between 1,400 and 1,800, so
ma'am.
what is is 1,400 your minimum?
Yeah, it's our minimum plan, and then we have some that's a little more, about 15, 16, and then we have one that's around 1,800 with a bonus room.
For
All
the
3
design for these homes?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
that's just your range that you build homes?
Well, that's what we're currently building in Luthersville right now, and we're gonna build the same houses here on this tract.
So, I just need to, does any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Berg? Because, go ahead, Commissioner
Well, I
Berg.
was just trying to qualify, and I was asking Brian just to confirm what we consider a subdivision, since this is only 4, but
It's 5 lots or more.
That was my next thing.
Right.
So, so officially, it's, 4 lots doesn't constitute a subdivision. So, I do want to ask, has a preliminary, this is a preliminary plat,
Yes, ma'am.
so you're going to be, is water in, I know there's water to some degree on Primrose, but does the water go out that far?
No.
So you're going to
It'll be
provide
wells and septic
wells
tanks.
wells and septic tanks?
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't indicate that on here. On that one. We're still looking through our packet.
No, you're fine.
This is makes easy. still have the sale on this property's been completed?
Yes, ma'am.
The reason I'm asking because on our form here, it does not show you as the owner.
Yeah, it's already been, we've already bought it and we paid, like Miss Kathy said, we've already paid the CUVA tax for the
Penalties for
taxes.
the,
Right, we did that at closing when we closed on it.
But unless we asked, we wouldn't have.
Right,
The paperwork
right,
does not
right.
indicate that.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
if I may I address that?
please.
Whenever a property sells, it does not show up on the tax records until the following year.
Okay,
So it would not change until afterwards, but the deeds have come through and they are the owners of the property.
okay.
And I would also think that it couldn't come before your board if it wasn't
Right.
a legal document of already purchased.
They have to bring us we have to have a copy of the deed and a plat, if there is a plat for such, as well as the application, all that. And this is just to rezone it to an RD from an LDR.
Right, from 5
Not a
acres.
plat, preliminary plat process at all.
So this is not a
No, ma'am.
preliminary plat, okay,
No, ma'am.
thank you. Commissioner Hadley has a question.
I just wanted to ask about the Ellis Road. I know it's dirt. Mr. Gay, do we have any, are there any requirements, anything that have to be done to that?
We, the chairman, as we look forward to our, future ordinance changes, we're gonna, work on an ordinance that is required to be paved to be 5 acres, but currently we don't have that in place. My only recommendation would be to minimize the number of, drive cuts that you have on the dirt road.
There's just gonna be 2 houses on it, right?
Right.
Facing
Okay.
Ellis Road.
How long is that road?
It's very long.
It's a
road.
long,
Very
long
very
dirt
long
road.
It's fairly close to a paved road, so you don't have we have some areas where we have like 60 houses in the first like half mile. This is gonna be, very close to the paved road.
It's close to Primrose, but it's an extremely long road.
Right.
Because it runs all the way on the other end to Forest Road.
Right.
So we've had some concerns because of logging on that road.
Right.
Extremely, a lot of damage has been done. So, once again, it's not in my district, but I think because it's on a dirt road, that when you look at the level of construction, and it's just 2 houses, but it is a road when you're coming off of Ellis onto Primrose, has a dip.
Yeah, there's a couple of potholes.
Yeah, it has a, so it's just, once again, one of my concerns would be the amount of gravel that's being put on the road during the time, I'm sure, prior to, putting the pipes in, that, I don't know if it specifies in our ordinance that you contact Public Works to make sure we're putting the correct size piping
Okay.
into the driveway area so that it can get a lot of drainage, because
Right.
that tends to be an issue over in that area.
All that has to be checked off, correct?
Yeah, well, Jack, the building inspector, he looks at that when he does his inspections. He'll look at the pipe and the gravel, because we had to put geomat under our gravel, silk fence, everything like that.
Just something that
Right.
I personally know we've had some issues with, and just wanted to verify that we do have those stipulations in our checkoff list. Okay, any other commissioners have any questions or comments they want to ask at this time? Thank you. And I don't have anyone that signed up.
Madam Chair, I didn't get to sign up, the line was so long tonight, since he had plenty of time left.
You want to sign up regarding this one?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, I was gonna ask, is there
I can
anyone?
sign the first one.
Right, here you go. We'll sign it. Just hand it over. So, once again, if there's anyone who didn't get an opportunity to sign up regarding this particular zoning, you feel free to,
Cool. We'll speak on for his behalf, too.
you can sign. And I think there's one person behind you, Mr. King, so let this individual sign and then we'll call you back up. Thank you.
Are you for or against?
I'm going to 7 forward, I'm just sharing based on development, being builder and so forth. Going to step aside.
I just, while she's signing, if you don't mind. All right, thank you. And then you can just hand me that back. Put it back in the records. Did you get this other?
I guess you'd say favor.
Okay, thank you. That's for the other one. Okay, continuing on with the public hearing on this case, case number 21. We have Mr. Gene King that'd like to speak at this time in favor. Mr. King?
Yeah, Madam Chair and the board, I didn't even speak to Mr. Byrd. I didn't really show up on his behalf. I'm really here as a builder and developer myself in the county. I would just like to mention, I'm not personal friends with Mr. Byrd, but I sold him lots over the years. I've watched him build, and I've watched the houses, the quality he does, so I can assure you, he builds nice quality homes. And as he mentioned to y'all, he's have a 1,400 square foot minimum, and this minimum square footage in this county is 1,200. So he could be going out there and building 1,200 square foot houses and meet the guidelines. Also, 2 acres is plenty of room for a septic system and a well. And so I just really want to say, because you know I may be up here one day too, wanting to get some property rezoned, and you said it best while ago in the last case. You welcome people moving to Meriwether County. So I mean that right there tell you we need some lots. And I'm having a hard time. I only got one lot I'm building on now, and I don't even know where I'm going next because you know some people don't want to sell the property. But I've started here in the last couple of years, and they've seen my work, and others have. But I've been building houses all out Alberton Road and so forth, in the 250s to 260s, 245 specs, not pre-sales. I've been building up quality specs and bringing good people in here that want to pay good taxes and have a nice, quiet country lifestyle. So I've just been a firm believer. Theron probably remembers it 20-some years ago, where I was up there, you know, fighting against Coweta County, and they wanted to have certain lot sizes and certain minimum square footage sizes. So I've always said from that day forward, I think everyone deserves to have a home. Everybody deserves to have a home they can afford. So coming from a single wide trailer driving around on a Yamaha 100 30-some years ago to where I'm at now, I'm a firm believer on that. I'll fight for anybody, no matter who they are, should be able to afford a nice quality home. And Meriwether County is fixing to explode because Coweta and Fayette is full. So I've got people calling me now wanting me to build more houses as soon as I can find another 2, 3, 4 acre lot. So I'd just like you to take that into consideration. He's a good guy. He builds a quality home, and I don't think we'd be, end up with a trashy neighborhood.
All right, we also have Ms. Catherine Jenkins in opposition. At this time, you're more than welcome to come up and speak.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. The reason I wanted to speak was just because I don't think that it was fully explained the condition of the road. I drive by this road every day I come to work, and the gravel part of the road is, it needs some work. It needs significant work. And I would like to ask the zoning administrator, Ms. Kathy, how you determine whether any... Oh, okay, I'm sorry. If we can have an explanation of why or how road usage or the impact will be determined. Because as I see it, the way the road is, any more roads, the trucks going in and out to build houses are going to be an impact, significant impact. And I just would like to ask why the board couldn't ask that small section going into the road couldn't be paved. And alternatively, if we can expand the look at a different plat. Although I've heard this is not a plat, but this is the way it's drawn is 2 acres as tight together. That one with that little cattle corner is hardly a lot. It's a lot, sort of. I don't know what that is. A polygon, octagon, something like that. Multi shapes there. But the other thing I wanted to do was also mention that our roads are one of our most important attributes. It's part of the infrastructure of this county, and we all know how expensive that is. So adding any kind of cost, I think, should really be taken into consideration. And then the location of this is, it's located pretty far from any cities. And so again, if we are trying to maintain a cognizant plan for this county, then we need to keep that in mind. I'm not against building, and I'm glad to see that we want more people coming in, but we shouldn't do that at the expense of the people in the community where that would be going in. So, again, I don't know if I can get an answer to the question that I proposed as far as determining what is required for determining usage of the road or impact.
It's going to be it's a public road, so everyone has the ability to utilize the road, okay? And one of the concerns that we've had is large paved subdivisions going off a short section of dirt road. In that scenario, we will be addressing a future ordinance which will address that. But you got to have somebody be able to allow to use their property. If you put restrictions such as where you got to pave this section of road, you've only got 2 lots accessing it. The developer's probably going to say, forget it. I'm not going to be able to do that. I think you have to minimize it. The homes will begin paying taxes as soon as they are constructed, so they will be a contributor to the maintenance of the road as well. And, we just have to be within reason, and I don't know after the construction's over, you only got 2 houses that are going to be fronting the road, and I'm sure Mr. Byrd will, during the construction, if there's damage to the road or it gets rutted out or whatever, we would ask him to make those repairs if he is the cause of those repairs.
Okay.
And I'd like to comment on that too. Before this meeting started, we had a work session. During that work session, toward the end, we requested that Public Works go out and they do studies on all our roads. They've already done it on pavers, now start to work on those dirt roads so that we can get an accurate study as to the wear and tear, and also be able to grade those roads in priority as to the shape that they're in. So we're already doing part of what you asked, but as far as people moving in and that being a burden on the road for citizens that are currently there, I think what Darren said about these citizens becoming taxpayers at that point, then that tax money goes toward helping that road as the other taxpayers that are already there to me.
All right, thank you for those. I do have to point out, though, again, the condition of that road in that juncture where it comes in is a very, there's gravel all over the road. The roadbed itself is starting, it's cracking and coming to pieces. So, I mean, it's almost laughable to think that there's not going to be damage done by any more heavy construction trucks going in to that area. So, I mean, again, I think it would be reasonable and within a reasonableness to ask for something else to be done if they're going to be building houses back there.
I did want to ask you about a question. Please don't take it the wrong way, but what is it that you're opposed to? Because you said you want growth and houses built, but now we're talking on roads, so I guess I'm just confused. Are you opposed to roads or are you opposed to? Well,
I think it would be easy to do a kind of a balancing test here, where we can look at 2 houses is not a hugely significant number, but it does have an impact. I don't think anybody can deny that there's going to be an impact from not only the houses being there, but for the houses being built. So with that in mind, the condition of the road as is already less. I mean, I don't know where it scores on the study, but the fact is right now we do have it is in a lessened degree, and I think it creates a bit of a hazard there because you're coming around a curve. It does not show, let me just point this out on this map, but this does not show this curve that comes around, and this comes to a very fine point where the roads connect. And so where those roads connect is there's a lot of gravel, the road's starting to come apart. So again, I just think it would be reasonable, completely reasonable to ask that we do get that fixed before these houses go in or after they are done, so that there's no more damage, there's no more gravel being spilled out.
You're speaking of Primrose Road or Ellis Road? I'm
talking about Ellis Road. Ellis Road is the dirt road part that goes into Primrose, and it comes to a very sharp point there. So anyway, and again, Commissioner Threadgill, back to your point, my concern is that if we allow growth that does negatively impact the condition of the infrastructure that we have right now, I think that we're going to continue to have more expenses on these roads unnecessarily. And as far as the growth in this county goes, again, I am for growth. We need more people. We need a tax base and all of that. But again, we shouldn't have to do it at the expense of the people living here in this county.
I just wanted to make sure that I was following.
Okay. Was I clear with that? Do you understand where I'm coming from? Thank you.
Ms. Catherine, just one thing, that public road falls squarely in our responsibility and on our back, whether those houses are there or not. The amount of traffic on that road, certainly they're gonna have some impact, but I think it'd be almost negligible compared to what's already there. When you've got availability of log trucks using this road, tractors using that road, horses, wagons, anything you wanna put out there. So I think this would be negligible compared to what's already there.
Well, Commissioner McCoy, that's definitely your opinion on that. But I mean, I think trucks bringing in equipment is going to be an impact. And considering how bad the gravel, I mean, the gravel's strewn all over it. If you're on a motorcycle, and I actually do ride motorcycles, you're going to be careful going into that curve. And so if that gets worse, I think we just need something. And again, as you point out, it is a public roads, and we do want the commission to put funds towards that if necessary. But I think since we have somebody that's building in that exact area, that they can be asked for to provide funds, or I'm not sure the legal requirements for this. But I think again, it's reasonable to ask for that.
Thank you. At this time, Mr. Byrd, you have an opportunity to come for rebuttal if you so desire. You want to comment? So, this is not Jason? Okay, I need you to sign. Do I still have that one? And you got 5 minutes.
Well, I was just going to answer some questions for you.
Okay, that's fine, but we're in the rebuttal time, so it's just 5 minutes.
Okay.
You can ask questions then. All right, so you can go ahead and...
Okay.
Could you tell me your first name again?
It's Mike
Mike?
Byrd, B-Y-R-D. Yes. It's a small tract of land on the corner of Primrose and Ellis. He's needing lots. That was the perfect place to get lots is the main thing. He's got 3 or 4 customers now, so if he can get it started, he'll be writing pre-sales on the property. The demand is there for the properties. I can answer any questions about it or anything. I retired, turned it over to my son. I try to let him do all the speaking. He's not real great in front of big groups yet. He does real good, but he runs the whole company, so.
I think you did a great job.
Yeah, thank you.
Do any commissioners have any questions or comment they would like to address to Mr. Byrd?
I have some comments, but not necessary to him. I am familiar with Ellis Road. I am familiar also with Primrose, and they both are in very bad condition. But I don't think it would be fair to the contractor to put the burden on him. We all are aware that Ellis Road, I get calls all the time about Ellis Road. I get calls about Primrose. We are discussing Primrose on that end is one of the worst roads in the county. So we are all aware of the condition of the road. But in the end of the day, I hope that with the T-Splosh and with the housing bonds and the tax bonds that we will be able to bring both up to standard. So with that being said, it is what it is. I mean, I can't ask you to burden you to pay that road. I can't ask you to put gravels on that area because that's where those 2 new houses are going to go, and they're going to expect to come out in a decent set of road. So just though it's gravel heavy and in front of those 2 houses, so when they do enter out of their driveway, they will not be going into a muddy condition. I think that's all I can ask of you.
Well, I do want to comment too. I agree with what Commissioner Gray just brought to the attention to the board and to the citizens. We have an obligation to maintain roads. Before it was Board of Commissioners, it used to be called a road commission. And that is our biggest task. But one of the things that I do want, and Kathy may already have this in our ordinance, is, once again, the thing that I find most challenging in some of our older homes that's been built here for a while and some that are new, is the drainage piping that we don't have. We've got pipes in some areas that are just not the right size. So once again, if we have something in our ordinance to address it, you go to Public Works to make sure the right drainage pipe is in there, because that tends to be one of the major problems. So once again, we too have to do our part around the dirt road. I'm in agreement, we can't ask you to do anything that we should be doing as far as our road maintenance. But I do think it's important that during that process, that you have the adequate amount of gravel that's needed. Now, that's going to be hard to determine, because sometimes you have a rainy time and you probably need to put more gravel down. I think one of the things that I've experienced on Ellis Road was, as you turn, because you know it's a wide turn and it dips, that area stays wet all the time. So once again, it's just, we can address that more with our Public Works, but, appreciate you bringing that up. And I just want to make sure the board as a whole realize that we do get a lot of calls on that road.
Okay.
But thank you. Is there any other commissioner, has any other comments or anything they want to address? If not, then, we didn't have anyone.
Do you have anything else? You still have 4 minutes.
No, I think that's it.
Okay. And no one else in opposition. So at this time, I'd like to get a motion that we come out of public hearing for this case, case 21. Is there a motion by Commissioner Bray and second by Commissioner Threadgill? I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. We are now out of public hearing for case number 21. And at this time, I'd like to have a motion on the floor regarding case number 21. District 1. It's District 2.
By that being in my district, I do motion that we accept accept the houses into our community. I understand that there are poor road condition, but hopefully that we will get those corrected. And we ask that the contractor also do his best to help us to maintain as he is doing the construction.
I'll say that would be a rezone from LDR to
RD2. Okay. So, hearing a motion given by Commissioner Bray and second by Commissioner Threadgill to take this LDR to an R2 on the 8 acres on Primrose and Ellis Road. Is there any, at this time I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Was that second by Commissioner Threadgill?
Right. All right, well, thank you. I'm going to also ask that we take a 5-minute break. I also need to stretch. I know it's been a long night for everyone. I may not need the whole 5 minutes, maybe just 2 or 3 minutes. Is that okay with the board? 2 minutes? To order. Thank you, everyone. All right. I'd like to get a motion that we go back into public hearing to hear case number 19.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, there was a motion by Commissioner Threadgill, and I heard both of them. So Commissioner Bray.
Well, here, pick one.
All right, so at this time, we'll hear from our Planning and Zoning Director, Ms. Kathy Johnson.
Thank you.
We didn't vote. Sorry, there you go. All those in favor going in public hearing? Anyone opposed? We're back in the public hearing. Now, Kathy, you have the floor.
Thank you, ma'am. We have case number 19, JB Communities LLC, the owner of mapping parcels 2525 and 2525-1, totaling 31.91 acres. The property is bound by Culpeper Circle, Roswell Lee Road, and Highway 54. The area is currently zoned LDR. The owner is requesting to rezone 15...
One second. Ladies and gentlemen, I know that everyone wants to have a conversation. I'm going to ask that you minimize your conversation because we need to hear from everybody. And as Kathy's speaking, yes, she is addressing the board, but she's also making sure that you all hear. So once again, be respectful of other people. If you need to have a side conversation, I ask that you step out of the room. Is that fair? Thank you. Ms. Kathy, continue.
Yes, ma'am. The owner is requesting to rezone 15.299 acres to R1 single-family residence from LDR 5 acres and ask for approval of preliminary plat for Phase 1 of Culpeper Estates. They have provided a letter from the City of Luthersville agreeing to supply water and allow for the expansion of its water lines from the development of lots. With public water at this location, lot sizes can be a 1 acre minimum. With Level 1 soil survey, letter from Meriwether County Health Department states all soils on all lots are suitable for the installation of on-site sewage management systems and approves the preliminary plan for the development. Phase 1 of subdivision will contain 13 lots, all fronting off Roswell Lee Road, with sizes varying from 1 acre to 2.17 acres. Front lawns will all be sodded and garage entrances will be accessed from the side. The standards for exercise of zoning power points. Current zoning of property and parcels to the west and the north are LDR, and a 65-lot subdivision is adjacent to this property. This is a prime location for development with its proximity to I-85 and the industrial park. The property value of acreage will increase due to the availability of public water, and tax assessments will increase with individual lots and homes. The gain to the public is an increase in the tax digest and affordable new homes. Current zoning does not have an impact. No development of this property has occurred in over 30 years. Neighboring parcels was subdivided in 2005. Lost my spot. In 2005, and growth halted in 2008. The developer of that subdivision has once again begun building out remaining lots due to growth in Meriwether County. He actually has got 2 permits with our office now to start building on that and working on finishing out the roads. The developer, once again, will begin these buildings and the remaining lots due to the growth in the Meriwether County area. Adjacent other properties include single-family residences, farmland, and a commercial cabinet shop. Residential growth in Meriwether County is expected to continue in much the same pattern which is occurring at the present time. Besides continued residential development within the county's incorporated communities, almost all the county's rural areas will experience residential growth. It is recommended that most of this growth take place adjacent to and near present residences along existing rural roads and highways in order to be able to utilize existing public utilities and facilities which might serve particular areas. Also in areas of the county which are experiencing more concentrated types of growth, it is recommended that continued development of this type be encouraged so that existing public utilities and facilities can be efficiently utilized. This is actually what they had proposed when we first went to the Planning Commission, and twice. And after having the Planning Commission meeting and hearing some of the concerns of the Planning Commission, and also talking to our office and staff, and the developers have notified us that they would like to come and propose a compromise to this particular project. And at this time, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Theron Yeh and let him proceed from this point.
Thank you.
Mrs. Theron, or are we going to hear from?
What I was going to say is, what I'd like to do is just ask that the applicant come up and present to you guys what he is looking at in terms of modification of his request.
So Mr. Byrd?
Yes.
Okay. So once again, you have a total of 15 minutes. And at any time, if you don't need the entire 15 minutes, if you want to share it.
I got 2, but I was going to look at one.
He has a revised plan here, we'll go and make copies of that if you could.
So once again, you have a total of 15 minutes. If you desire to use the entire 15 minutes, you can. If not, if you want to share it with someone else, you have that opportunity.
Okay.
And at the end of your presentation, we'll hear from the other opponents, and they have 15 minutes, but then you have the opportunity to come back with a 5-minute rebuttal. Okay? So if you'd like to go ahead and get started now, you're more than welcome, or you want to wait until we get a copy of your proposal.
I mean, I can wait on him, that way all y'all can look at it and we can discuss it.
That'll be good.
We can't read and listen at the same time.
I hate talking, so.
I joke a lot, but we have to have somebody to make us laugh, because this is boring, and we know.
Mr. Byrd, there
Yes,
is
ma'am.
one other person who's on the list to want to speak in favor of it, so you each have 7.5 minutes. So I have Mr. Bubble Allen listed to speak.
Oh.
So you have 7.5 minutes, unless he does not need his time. Is Mr. Allen here?
I don't know where he
Mr.
went.
Allen?
He might still be here.
I bet you'll finish before seven.
Oh, I'm sure.
We're asking if he wants to have the vote. Mr. Allen, you're on the list to speak.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
it's 2 of you speaking, which means each one of you have 7.5 minutes to speak.
I got very little strength.
Okay.
Alright, so, Mr. Byrd, you have the floor.
Yes, ma'am, we got Mr. Gay and everything, and we worked up a compromise on the subdivision, but our compromise is to do 2-acre lots on the whole tract. The whole 31 acres, and it'll be a total of 14 lots. It's the same zoning we just went through a minute ago. And the only thing on the one side is right here, to make everything work, we want to yield 14 lots. So on the right side of Roswell Lee, it'll be 2 phases, the same way we're submitting it now, but the first phase, it'll be a total of 7 lots. But on the right side of Roswell Lee, to make it work, there'll be 1.9.
Let me interrupt and ask something, because you said the entire 31. Tonight, we're looking at rezoning.
Right, the
at
one-
phase 1, so I guess maybe look at that tonight, and then the other will have to come at a different time.
That's correct. The other has not been advertised for
Right, so we can't.
rezoning, so, I don't think we could probably legally have a public
Right.
hearing, but we could on the reconfiguration.
Right. Okay. Yeah, the one that's going tonight is off of Roswell Lee.
Okay.
And before it was a total of 13 lots, and now it'll be a total of 7. I know there was some concerns about the amount of drives coming off Roswell Lee and everything. But the only compromise we have, I've got with Eugene, the Meriwether County Health Department, and he has no problem with the 3 lots on the right being 1.902 acres. They're less than 1/10 of an acre short of being the required 2 acres. I mean, all the road frontages, it has to have 200-foot road frontage on all of them.
Then you've got on the left side, you got one that's a 3.2 acre tract.
Right, we got 3, yeah, I'm trying to see.
3.29, what's on?
I need some. And the road frontage is across the corner, 382 feet.
Those 4 on that side, each are 2.008, until you get to the bottom one there, that's shaped
Right,
like
it's
the whole
just-
base is 3.399.
Just the way it's shaped.
They couldn't read it.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought you were asking me. Yeah, just the way it's shaped and the way Highway 54 turns, it's a little more acreage on that track. But the only thing is with this one, we're not going to run any county water or expand the water system that was out front. These will be on wells and septic tanks.
So these 7
Yes, sir.
for tonight, well,
Right. Because our agreement before was we were going to tie into City of Luthersville, which is, it's about a 1/4 mile up the road, right where Park Pine subdivision is, and we were going to run it down Roswell Lee and do 1-acre tracts.
I think you were also willing to commit to the board maybe on some sizes of the home.
Oh, right, yeah. Well, I know the minimum, we have to do a county regulation, a subdivision regulation. Once it's all approved, we have to turn in for a subdivision. I guess they're regulations, but in that, we don't have a problem. I know the county minimum is 1,250. We were going to do 1,400 minimum square foot houses in the subdivision.
Do you know what the maximum would be?
It just depends. Like I said, we got one plan that's around 18, maybe a little bit more.
You plan on putting some of those in?
We do. We built a few spec houses, but 90% of these, we have people that want them now. We just out of lots in the county.
1,400 to 1,800?
Yes, ma'am, it might be a little more. I mean, we could do 14 to 2,000, somewhere in there if I needed to. But the minimum would be 1,400.
Can we raise the minimum?
Because, yeah.
Can we raise the minimum?
Oh, yeah, we can raise it from 1,250 to 1,400.
No, I'm talking about from 1,400 to at least, I mean, it's
In some zoning districts in the county, it's, your minimum is 1,500.
1,500.
It was 15 to 1,600 square feet. Okay.
Yeah, I think this one's 1,250 zoning right now.
Would you be willing to go in the middle of 1450?
Yeah, we can do 1,450.
So heated or is that each? That's heated square feet.
If you guys choose to do that, since you're looking at the zoning, you probably need to make that a condition of the zoning on these lots, okay?
I don't know if this is the time for me, but I do have some conditions, some things that I think is important because, let's see what I did when I was. So initially, you were asking for R1 and you have now decided to come to this board with a different types of zoning, and apparently from hearing from our planning and zoning and to our administrator, there's no need to resubmit this. But I just want to make sure that I'm getting clarification. So on the So the total amount of land that you're rezoning is 15.299, is that correct?
Right, yes, ma'am, for the first phase.
For the first phase
Right.
of this. And so the lot that's 025/11 is 5.7 acres. And then on the other 26, you're going to pull out 10.59 acres. Correct?
No. It's,
So if you're
it's about half of it now.
so it's half of it now.
Right.
All right. And so that remaining part
Right,
will stay, because we can't discuss that now because
Right.
it wasn't advertised, will still and remain as LDR
for now, yes.
for now, until it's come back to the board. So just want to
Right.
get clarification. So, but altogether it's a total of 15.29 acres.
Right.
Okay. And our RD has certain specifications, I think I saw that.
200
okay.
feet on the
I
county
just wanted
road.
to make sure.
Mhm.
I think setbacks
Setbacks and everything, which is kind of standard for everyone else in regarding that.
Yeah, I think
The one thing that I would like to ask, this is coming to us as a subdivision.
Mhm.
So one of my conditions would be is that there is an entry that says whatever you're going to name the subdivision.
Okay.
You know, that most subdivision has an entry
Just a
that
sign or
says,
something.
a sign that says subdivision, that's, you know, normally on a landscape like Park Pine Times,
Right.
you know, that indicates you are coming into a subdivision, not just a row of homes, you know, and with identified name. You did mention your normal square footage of homes, and again, what was that? I know what the county says, but for this size and to be in conformity with the area,
Yeah, I mean,
can we look
we
at
can look-
1,600 square feet homes?
no, I can't go that high. I mean, because we try to stay for
So
affordable
what are you saying, the minimum that you're looking at to do?
with 1450 for a
14?
minimum, and they'll go up from there. I mean,
Depending on the size of the lots?
right.
And you said most of the homes will have driveways to the side?
Yes, ma'am. They got side entrance garages. We do sodded front yards, granite countertops.
Well, you're selling to the seller, not to me. I don't, that, I.
And the 2 acre will set back 125 feet.
Right, from the center line of the road.
The other thing that I'm also interested in is because Bosley Road runs into a main highway 54,
Mhm.
there's a lot of, it will be more traffic. So I'm not sure how this is done, but I'm interested in making sure that if there is a traffic study, deceleration lane off of 54, can we get information from GDOT required if it's needed? It may not even be needed, because what I'm most concerned about is coming off to 54. There's a lot of traffic, and hopefully there are going to be school buses coming through there. So once again, most subdivisions that you see, especially one off of a main highway, normally a road is cut.
Right.
In this case, that's not the case. But in order to come into that area, I want to make sure there's enough space for turning and people coming out. It's just a concern that I have. Maybe someone else can address it, but I do have a concern of that because one of the challenges that we had on Rosley Road was earlier when we were having logging on Gold Mine Road. They chose not to go all the way around and cut through Rosley Road, which did a lot of damage to that road, and we just recently had it resurfaced. So anytime you're going to get more homes, quite naturally you're going to get more traffic. I'm just concerned coming off of that onto a main highway to make sure that we have adequate amount. And that's just a concern. I don't know if anyone else has, but we can go back to that.
Madam Chair, I'm not so sure we can go there. That's a state road.
I'm not saying off the state road. I'm just saying.
And this phase one has the paved road between. This phase one we're talking about.
Roswell Lee's page.
Right.
Okay.
It's paved road.
All right. I just wanted to ask. The other thing I wanted to ask is, knowing now that you're wanting to do 2-acre lots, one of my other concerns is, for me, and also hearing from my constituents in the areas, sometimes when developers come in, and I know why they do it, I really do know why, is having this clear cut, just cutting all the trees
Right.
out.
No, we're not.
And so that is one of my concerns and the concerns of people in that area, that there is some kind of buffering, and I know in our code it requires us some kind of buffering, but how are you going to address that?
Yeah, we don't clear the whole lot anyways. We just clear out maybe half an acre for just the house and septic.
Okay.
And I don't think there's many big trees on that property. There's an old grown up field.
I would imagine leaving the tree also would help you with your sale.
Right.
as well.
Well, we're gonna have it mulched, and it'll leave all the big trees anyways.
So we're not talking about Culpeper Circle at this time. So my question now is, as you're doing the construction work, one of the things that I have experienced in my district is so much traffic when you're building, which I know is part of it, but would there ever be a need for you to come on Culpeper Circle to bring any of your supplies in, or?
We shouldn't. Roswell Lee, if we did go on Culpeper Circle, it'll be on the right side where nobody lives. I don't think there's any houses on the right side of Roswell Lee.
That's a real narrow area.
Right,
The only
it's
thing
narrow.
I would say, once again, like the one we
Just for
just
somebody
looked
to
at
turn
is,
around.
if there ever gets to be a need to make sure there's enough gravel and stuff up in that area because of the rainy season. So right now, you're saying there won't be any need to be on the other end of the dirt road from Roswell. That is it for me. Is there any other commissioners have any questions or comments regarding this?
You did say all garages are side.
Right. Yeah, they'll all be side entrance garages.
Even 1,400 square feet or a 3-bedroom minimum.
Do what?
The 1,400.
Yes, sir. All our houses are 3-bedroom, 2-bath.
Does the side garage increase the value of the home?
It does, and it just makes it look better when you're riding down the road. You're not looking straight into somebody's garage. Yeah.
All right, if you don't have anything else for the board, Mr. Allen, you have signed up to speak. You're more than welcome to come up, and we still have 11 minutes.
Madam Chairman, I'm going to be brief. I had a bunch of stuff I wanted to say, but basically I had throat surgery this week, and it's limited my voice capabilities, but I honestly, I know there's been a lot of bad things passed around on social media, and I commend the group that's here. Your friends, our friends are in the red, that they can organize and go around and get petitions signed and letters from people. That's amazing that you can walk around the north end of this county and find this many people that feel like they have a say over what their neighbor does on their property. And that's what this is to me. I know that's harsh, but I'll be honest with you. We turned down the industry. We had to fight tooth and nail to get a cell tower in this county. We're fighting small family businesses in the counties across from us. We're against everything this group is. And here we are, they're fighting a small developer. I know this guy personally. I know his dad. I know the boys that work with him. They're farmers. They're good boys. He keeps 2 or 3 families fed in this county as we speak. I dealt with his homes he's built. They're nice homes. The day they laid the sod, U-Hauls are backing in unload. People aren't complaining. People aren't raising Cain. He's got a great name in this community and in the north part of this county. Now, I don't understand how we can fight that. That's positive growth for our county, one of the few bright things we've got right now, because we're against everything else. The group behind me is against everything. But are we going to shut this down? Are we going to shut the small builders down? This is affordable housing. Increasing the tax base, increasing the tax money. It's going to be folks that shop out of town. But I'm telling you, Lucasville's getting to a point. We're going to see a retail outlet store up there. We're going to see a shopping mall of some sort in the near future. It's the only place in this county growing. I don't see the point of shutting it down because a handful of people that live in the neighborhood feel like they have a say over their neighbor's property. Well, a handful of people from Alvington do, and a handful of people from Lone Oak. I don't understand how we can consciously stop him and sleep at night. That's really all I've got to say.
Thank
I
you.
mean that just in a respectful way. Thank you.
If any commissioners have any questions or comment for Mr. Allen? Okay, thank you. So there are several people who have signed up in opposition, and I also understand there's an attorney that is here to represent some who have signed up and the attorney will speak on their behalf. Once again, you have a total of 15 minutes, and you're going to have a 5-minute rebuttal time. So we have the clock up there. Can you do me a favor? Can that be just slide a little bit over because you can't see the clock? Thank you, I appreciate that. So the first person up to speak is Mr. Michael Davis. Mr. Davis?
You'll have 2.5 minutes, correct?
2.5 minutes.
2.5 minutes. So, my name is Michael Davis. I'm not a bunch of people on one people. I own a creek that's going to be taking all the poop from the construction going to be getting done. I have crayfish, horny heads from the creek right now, and near all the runoff, additional runoff for the concrete, the roofs, all is going to funnel down with me. I'm going to catch all the construction's doing now. Like I said, the creek only comes up 1,000 feet on the other side of Walter Road. This is spring fed, nice creek. I've been there 30 years, no problem. I'm living with the one subdivision you guys talking about now. I'm living with that subdivision. I had trash on the property a month or so ago. It took 3 weeks or so for it to move. But someone had moved into the neighborhood, as we say, and didn't have no place to put their trash. So they dumped it on my 5-acre tract, which I own 2 tracts on the Broadway Road, a 22-acre tract and a 5-acre tract. I bought a 5-acre tract so I have peace and quiet there. The promise you guys made to me with the 5-acre zoning, I took you guys for your word on that. I've been there peaceful. I don't know any of these red shirt people hardly. Like I told them, they can slap, I can identify them. That's a rural community. We're living with the one subdivision. We cannot. I know it's money for the county. The county needs some money. I understand that. But to go from 1 acre to 2 acres on the zoning, go to 3, go back to 5 acres. Live up to the promise. And 2 years ago, we took tires out the creek. Me and my neighbor, last year, he took the tires out the creek and took them away. The impact is, we already impacted from I don't want to turn into a subdivision. I did not move that turn into a subdivision, Pine Lake, or whatever you want to call it. I did not move that there. 30 years we've been there. No problem. The one subdivision enough. Put it in Lucasville. I mean, I'm just one person. So that's all we got to say. But I live down the creek of that. All that drainage go down down Roswell Road, going down 50 feet onto my property into that creek. All the drainage is. The concrete, the houses, it's going to be increased flow. The septic tank's going to overflow in there. I'm going to get the septic tank overflow. It's coming to me. I don't want it.
Mr. Davis, I have a question. Can you
point out on that little map close to where the area is that you are? Would that be possible? Just roughly, doesn't have to be exact.
Are you going towards Goldman or 54?
Come here, okay. The creek, the drain, come in the low quarter road.
Okay.
See, the poop's coming down here.
How far is that creek from there? A mile?
No, it's only 1, 2, 3 houses, 3, 4 houses.
So you're headed towards Goldman off of Ross?
Come at the bottom of the hill, pretty much.
At the bottom of the hill?
Yes.
And there is a creek?
Yes, creek.
Yeah, there's a creek.
The creek, like I say, 20 years ago, so, what's the name? The girl fell in the creek because of increased flow, and we had to just put the drainage put in. That's a lot of water comes down the hill during rainstorms, a lot of water. These houses going to increase that flow tremendously. You know, like I said, when it rains now, cold pepper don't scramble to Crossley Road. It's a lot of water come down the hill. I mean, I don't know what kind of management for to get on the EPA and that, but they're going to change the water for a lot. This coming to me, not our point.
Thank you. The next person to speak in opposition is Carrie, is it?
Markham.
Markham?
Yes, ma'am.
And you are an attorney?
I'm an attorney, yes,
And
ma'am.
speaking on behalf of how many?
I'm speaking on behalf of the 4 other speakers today, who are Jack and Terry Lassiter, as well as Heather and John Reynolds. But they are each going to speak as well.
Okay,
I'm going to start us off.
Okay.
We're here today. My clients are very concerned about density, traffic issues, transportation, septic, and runoff. The area is a rural area, as low-density residential with a minimum lot size of 5 acres per lot. My clients all purchased their property in reliance on this promise from Meriwether County with the zoning district's land use plan and comprehensive plan, which were just amended in 2018. One of our biggest concerns is typically when an applicant applies to rezone property and shows multiple phases, the jurisdiction won't review it piecemeal as they are here, with the phase 1 being presented today and the phase 2 speculatively at some point in the future. If there are multiple phases, the master plan would be approved by the jurisdiction so that the density, the traffic, the transportation, the septic, and the runoff would all be addressed on the front end. So this proposal shows the 2 phases, but only one is before you. And we worry that a precedent is being set by you approving this with phase 2 on the plan, but not being reviewed by staff at this time. It's obvious that phase 1 and phase 2 make a master plan by the applicant, as the applicant just stood before you and said that their master plan was to develop this all as originally. I understand they have compromised on their plan, but they are still proposing to rezone the entire parcel. It's just not all before you today. We believe that they should be required to have it reviewed all at one time so that you can look at the traffic, you can look at the runoff, you can look at all of the various issues. We also don't see any storm retention or detention areas on either phase of the plan. And once the grading occurs on phase 1, it will be difficult to address phase 2, where all could have been done properly at the outset. We also believe transportation could be adversely affected, as was mentioned earlier, and there is concern regarding the septic. If it's okay with the board, I will now turn it over to my 4 clients to each kind of address a few of these concerns in turn.
1 second, I have a list.
Sure, thank you.
The next person scheduled to speak is Ms. Terry Lassinger.
Yes, ma'am, thank you.
Thank you. And once again, you have 2.5 minutes to speak.
You want me to wait till he hands those out?
Okay, we'll hold it.
By the time subtracted on the clock at this point, we're 27 seconds to the good, so she would actually have 3 minutes almost to speak if you wanted to. If not, we'll wind up with 30 seconds.
18 years ago, we built our home on Culpeper Circle because we fell in love with the countryside and the beautiful agricultural land. We wanted a quiet, traffic-free area to raise our family as well as our horses, goats, and dogs. The area provides a wonderful place free from high volumes of traffic and people. Our neighbors will tell you the same. According to Article 6.1.3, LDR was created to allow a transition from low to medium density residential areas and allow for pasture land, horses, cows, dogs for personal pleasure. We are an equestrian community. Now the proposal is to rezone to R1, which according to Article 6.1.5 reads, the purpose of R1 is to provide a medium to high density residential district served by public water and public sewer systems. There is not a public sewer system, and our area is low density, not medium. R1, according to Article 6, is for a city. R1 is not compatible, and it is intrusive to our rural area. Clearly, the zoning district boundaries for our rural area and the comprehensive plan for page 34 and 35 of estate residential lots and to preserve the character and scenic rural landscape are totally ignored by this proposed subdivision of 1 acre extremely narrow tracts and the 26 driveways spilling out on the county roads when both phases are completed. So why do we even have a comprehensive plan if we are not going to follow it? Also, according to LDR, 200 foot of road frontage is required, but the proposed rezoning to R1 for a subdivision, Section 1204 Building Code line reads, lots reduced to 1 acre shall have a minimum road frontage of 150 feet, and this subdivision doesn't even do that. Plus, the development doesn't even follow the zone setbacks. And to fit the septic tank, all the trees will need to be cut, but at least they will have sodded yards according to the planning director. We are zoned 5 acre low density rural for a reason. How are we to raise our horses, goats, cows, chickens, and dogs next to a high density subdivision? The zoning should remain LDR 5, so we will not lose our community of rural agricultural land and scenic beauty. Thank you.
Thank you. The next person scheduled to speak is Mr. Jack Lassinger.
Hello, my name is Jack. According to the comprehensive plan, it was recommended that we have a master plan communities. Where is the master plan community? Where are the proposed house plans designed, including square footage? Where is the drainage plan and retention pond, traffic study for the entrance, soil evaluation not done during a drought? At the planning zoning meeting, it was stated the subdivision is similar to Park Pines. Park Pines had the single entrance off Highway 54 development and started in 2005. That is 14 years ago. The proposed subdivision does not have any of the entrances or curving, and we have a Meriwether comprehensive plan that was developed in 2018 so we could follow it as growth comes our way. The residential growth map indicates growth, but nothing indicates we must rezone from low density to high density. Currently, phase 2 is not being developed per the email by the planning director because it was on a dirt road. So why is it still on the preliminary plat and the soil evaluations of both indicate 1 acre lots and 1 2-acre tract? This is a bait and switch tactic. We're giving each of you a copy of the petition signed by 141 citizens opposed to this development to include all homeowners on Culpeper Circle and Culpeper Drive, homeowners on Gold Mine Road, Sweetwater Drive, Highway 54, which surrounds the proposed subdivision. We have a creek that flows through our property without proper drainage and sewage disposal. This high-density development would destroy our creek and drinking water since we're all on wells. We're asking you to follow the guidelines of the comprehensive plan. And what if happens if septic tanks fail? There was no room on these narrow 1 acre lots. We ask you to bring positive, sustainable growth to our county. Please vote no to rezoning Culpeper Subdivision Phase 1 and 2. We are invested in our county and we welcome growth, but this development is not what is best for our county. And also, this is not a neighbor, this is a developer.
Thank you. All right. Bill, you're keeping up with the time for us? Oh, okay. All right, the next person on the list to speak is it Heather Reynolds?
Yes, I am John.
Okay, so you're healing it, okay, to John Reynolds? Okay, once again, you have 2.5 minutes.
5.
5, well, we all got 5 altogether. Who else do we have on this list?
That should be it. And if Ms. Reynolds gives to Mr. Reynolds, that will be our last speaker.
Okay, so Mr. Reynolds, you're our last speaker. Go right ahead.
So I guess my first question is, how can you be certain there's no impact to traffic when to date no official traffic study has been performed, at least of which we are aware of? For phase 1, well, there are now 7 proposed no homes on Roswell Lee, providing up to at least 14 to 15 new traffic participants daily. This number is based on the most recent census stating that the average number of cars per household is 2, followed by 3. This has the potential of almost doubling the traffic on this road, as there are only 10 occupied residences on Roswell Lee and 2 on Sweetwater Drive that feeds into it at this time. I believe that the proposed development will have an impact on the traffic. Several accidents have occurred at the intersection of Roswell Lee and 54, which is located in a curve and contains a blind spot for those who turn onto Roswell Lee. What does the county need to ensure there is no major impact to traffic and the safety of its citizens? I suggest that we do need a traffic study to ensure that this intersection is designed to safely protect all current and potential new residents. Several of our neighbors on Roswell Lee and Culpeper routinely walk and ride horses, so this added traffic would pose an increased hazard to their safety. It seems to me that not enough questions have been asked about the total impact this proposed development will have on all the residents and the county. One thing that was mentioned, that home values would not be affected. I disagree, because anytime there's development, it's going to affect the houses, especially when there's a difference between the zoning. One thing that's been mentioned, the phase 2, is phase 2 should not be on any of the documentation that we're putting into record right now. Otherwise, it's going to give them leeway further on to come back and say it was part of this, regardless of what's been agreed to.
And I will say that's why I corrected it, so it will be on the record.
Another question I have is why at the last minute are we allowed to change from R1 to RE2 without no proper notification that we had to go through on R1 when they were notified? Seems like there was no notification or no public, nothing in the papers, nothing was notified to anybody.
Well, it's not, it's a less intense zoning. Board can zone properties to whatever. The developer came back with that as an option after, I think, attended the public hearing for the planning commission. So it's an option that he came back with, and that's what he's now requesting. But the board can zone as they see fit.
Okay. Next question.
As long as the notice of the rezoning is out there, if they choose to rezone it to a different category, that's still permitted.
So it doesn't matter as long as it was proposed at one time?
As long as the notice is notifying people of a potential rezoning, which is what the notice does.
Okay.
It doesn't have to state necessarily what they're rezoning it to.
Thank you. That was going to be one of my questions to Kathy and to Theron, is that if you're advertising one type of rezoning and then you come and present another, is there a need to reapply?
There's not a need to re-notice.
Re-notice. So within the law, we can, I just wanted to.
If you so choose, yes.
If so choose. Okay, once again. But in that, because of the criterias are different, it does not make a difference because your RD states what setbacks and everything on your basic.
Your criteria is a substantive question. The notice is a procedural question.
Okay.
So procedurally, you can rezone to a different classification than what may have been noticed as long as the notice went out. Substantively, you want to consider the considerations that are in the ordinance with regard to rezoning to that classification.
To the new classification.
Right, because the request to zone is before us tonight, but the contractor and the request for rezone could walk out of here tonight and automatically revert back to where it is now, right? Likely it wouldn't even be, so it kind of fits in the same category to me.
I'm not sure I followed.
Okay. I will shut up.
I guess, once again, I just want to get clarity, and also not just for the board, but for the citizens. So when you initially put in a application for a specific rezoning, and at any given time that person chooses to change that, They can come to the Board of the Planning at any given time, and there's no requirement to come back in for that different type of rezoning once it's initially been asked to be rezoned.
There may be different substantive requirements they have to meet in order to have it rezoned. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that procedurally, the notice that went out in the newspaper was sufficient to allow you to address a different category of rezoning.
In this meeting.
Correct.
Okay, that's what I want to have clarity.
In the category of zoning that I think Mr. Byrd proposed, you're talking about the frontage is going to increase, setbacks are going to increase, the side, rear yard, all of that's going to change from what was required in R1 over to what's required in R2.
There was also a variance requested in the originally proposed. Is that off the table now?
This
Or
is
is it
going to be
still,
R2. Yeah.
so that variance on the setback is gone?
Because of the different classification. All right, you still got 3 minutes. If
Yes.
anyone else wants to comment at this time, or you want to continue?
Yeah.
Go right ahead, sorry.
So, as local citizens, we're concerned the development will set a precedent and allow the comprehensive plan to be more loosely interpreted. For example, the peripheral growth area surrounding Luthersville and Lone Oak seem much larger than any other municipality. So it seemed more feasible to begin a natural growth pattern from the city center outward rather than just placing the developments in the middle of a low-density area. So another question is, what's the county's plan to ensure the long-term sustainability of these houses and the impact of the surrounding areas? Whatever your decision is today, we have to live with the results of this decision for the rest of our lives. Like Jack said, this builder is not a resident of Meriwether County and really has no concern for the sustainability of the houses. Thus, it is incumbent upon the county commissioners to ensure that we have a well thought out development plan to attract and execute a comprehensive plan for the growth of the county. How long is it before there will be no rural county left? We moved here, we picked this spot for a particular reason because we did not want neighbors looking in our property. We did not want neighbors nosing around. And this property perfectly fits that vision. I just ask that we hold to the vision that we have and maintain the rural character of our community while promoting the kind of growth that will make Meriwether residents proud and deny this rezoning request. Thank you.
Thank you. There's no one else to speak at this time in opposition, so you do have a minute and 18 seconds. If not, then we will have the rebuttal time.
Can I ask a question real quick? I heard Ms. Lassiter say 150 setback, but I asked a question earlier, 125 on the 2 acre. Is it 125 or is it 150?
I believe it's 115.
Yeah, that's where I thought it was 150. We'll look that up. See if
It's right here. You talking about the setback?
Oh, what's his name?
115 on the 2 acre?
Yeah, 125 is what
115. 115 on your setback from the center line of the road.
You want to see a copy of this?
No, I just misheard.
Okay, we have 5-minute rebuttal. So Mr. Jason Byrd or Ms. Farley, either one of you, would like to come up and have any comments, any rebuttal at this time? Once again, this is addressed to the board.
Yeah, I was going to speak on behalf of talking about the drainage issues and everything like that. EPD, I mean, you have to hire a company with the EPD or EPA that monitors all erosion, silt fence. They come out there, I think, once a week, and then if it rains, they come out daily. And they put monitors in the creeks, they monitor your silt fence. If it's down, it has to be up. They monitor all that. So any runoff or anything like that, it'll be back on us. So any sediment, I mean, there's a company out there you hire that monitor all of it.
Any commissioners have any questions or comments or anything they'd like to ask Mr. Byrd at this time? Thank you. Once once again, those who are opposing this can also have a 5-minute rebuttal. I don't know who wants to come up and speak, or you can just share the time. But at this time, anyone that would like to speak in rebuttal, you can. And once again, this is Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Okay.
Septic tanks are not completely intact. There will be runoff from septic tanks. I will get the guy from upstreet in my property. I'm not so much opposed to the growth at all, but 5 acres is plenty to build a house on. That's probably something we can't stick to 5 acres. My son, who grew up at Roswell Road, now is looking to buy a house. He's trying to spend $270,000 to buy a house. Houses are selling for $270,000. They can build $270,000 house in that neighborhood. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Anyone else?
On the runoff issue the applicant just addressed, my client's concern isn't so much runoff during construction, it's runoff post-construction, where there wouldn't be any EPD oversight or anyone to fall back on to have that problem. That's gonna be their problem because it's gonna be on their property at that time. And just one more point to my phase 1, phase 2 master plan issue that I raised earlier. Phase 1 is the only phase in front of the board right now, but phase 2 is on the map. Ms. Johnson provided us with information in an email prior to today, and she said that phase 2 cannot be done under subdivision, as Meriwether County will not allow a subdivision off dirt roads. So we already have a phase 2 problem, but we have an applicant in front of you who said at the outset that he wanted to rezone 31 acres. That's his goal and that's what he wants to do. And we have concerns that there will be boxed into a corner if we approve phase 1 today, because we don't know anything about phase 2. We've not done any investigation or any of our requirements with regards to phase 2. But that's clearly what the applicant wants, is a full master plan that's just not in front of the board, and we're not really sure why, but it's not. So those are our concerns as well as the ones raised, and we appreciate you listening and your attention. Thank you. And I can answer any questions.
Well, I have a question, but I don't know if it's directed to you. I may have to talk to our planning and zoning person. Getting to the question that was just brought to the table about a master plan, because initially, one of my concerns was that it was presented as a subdivision, but, you know, subdivision come in different phases. You have a major subdivision or a minor subdivision, and we're in the process of looking at our ordinance. This, I think, in most cases, would fall under a minor subdivision. That's why, but the thing that I too want to understand, if you're doing this in phases, and we know that it's on a dirt road, and with a number of houses on a dirt road, we do have homes that are currently being built that are 2 acres on a dirt road, but they're not a subdivision. So is there a difference if someone is coming on a dirt road and just building homes versus someone who's designating as a subdivision and building on a dirt road? Where is there a difference?
The definition of a subdivision is when you subdivide a piece of property into 5 or more parcels. That could be a family's 100 acres. They want to divide into 5 different pieces for family members. They have to come through and do a preliminary plat approval, just as this situation is. You don't have a delineation between a small subdivision, a big subdivision, a major subdivision. It's just based upon the definition of what is a subdivision in your ordinances.
Meriwether County ordinance. That's correct. So, I heard, I don't know what the attorney said it, but saying that they were advised, or it was stated that you could not build on a dirt road in a subdivision.
Well, that's what we told them, and that's why the phase 1 came into play. They're not doing anything with phase 2 at this time. They wanted to just work on phase 1, and then whatever, you know, can come up later would be applied for again to go through that process to see what could be done on phase 2.
I guess what I'm trying to get clarity on is if you're doing phase 1 and you come back and do phase 2, and let's say you do RD, then can you still build on a dirt road, or does it require, since it is a subdivision and you can't build a subdivision on a dirt road?
It's going to depend upon whatever the ordinance is.
Let me kind of clarify that. Originally, they were looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 13 lots coming out on a dirt road. And I told them, Mr. Bird, when I talked to him, that I don't think the county's gonna do that. We're going to a scenario where they've either gotta pave the road, or they will likely, under our new ordinance, which will be coming pretty soon, have to build 5-acre tracts. Now, if you had an existing 2-acre tract that you owned, it would be grandfathered, so you could certainly build on that. But what we would not want is have subdivisions coming out onto a dirt road at 1-acre, size. Because then you're gonna put 14 houses onto a dirt road, and we've already experienced on some of the other dirt roads, a real problem when you put that many traffic trips onto a dirt road. So, right now, his option on phase 2 is gonna be come back to you guys with a plan of what he wants to do with that plan. Right now, it's LDR, it's 5 acres. He could choose just to build 5 acres, on the 5-acre tracts. And then that 13 lots becomes 3 lots, or thereabouts. And so, that's what we originally talked at. I talked to him about possibly paving the road if he wanted to look at the 1-acre lots. I think that was cost prohibitive. And, so I think that's where he got the, we've talked about the 5 acres, or we talked about the lots.
So let me make sure I got all this right, so, and anybody and everybody can correct me, I don't care. The reason that we are doing a phase 1, and I understand your concern about not having a master plan with phase 2, but our ordinance states that we cannot have a subdivision by definition that is 5 houses or greater on a paved road. So therefore, on a dirt road. So therefore, at this point, because the area has a paved road, we are able to provide that as a subdivision. The reason we are not addressing this additional part today is because it would come out onto a dirt road. Therefore, we still cannot have a subdivision with 13 houses on that road with 1-acre lots if it remained dirt. So the compromise would be either the road has to be paved or 5-acre lots, and that's why we haven't done that at this point, is my understanding. And you can address it.
And I think that was my concern. If you're defining it as a subdivision, and in our ordinance it states that you cannot be on a dirt road, my question is whether it's a 2-acre or 5-acre, does it apply? Because you're going to go back at a later time and look at it. So if you choose to keep the 5 acres, it's fine. If you choose to do the 2 acres, then it's still, I understand that. The question that I have is that whatever, when he comes, whether he chooses to do 5 acres, 3 acres, or 2 acres, is still as a master plan started out as a subdivision. So therefore, does the board can address?
He wouldn't be able to do 2 acres based on the amount there, because that would put it over 5 houses, which would also put it in as a
Mayor, if I may
subdivision.
interject, I believe the Madam Chair's question is this: is the second phase considered part of the first phase, to where any house would be part of the subdivision, so therefore no house could be built until that road?
You got that out of that, you can understand my question.
So it doesn't matter if it's a 5-acre lot, if it's all 15 acres, you couldn't build it if you're part of the first phase of subdivision, because it would still be coming out on a dirt road without the dirt road being.
And that's the question that I'm asking.
I think that's the question.
That's what I'm trying to get clarity on.
And they may not even come back in.
Well, I understand that, but it goes back to what was said earlier. We're setting a precedent as far as how we zone. Every county has zoning and ordinance. We all got by that. So whether you, at one point you have 5, whatever, you look at your master plan, most times, your smaller acreage and in a high density, most times it's in a municipality area. So we're talking about the county. We've all stated that the county is growing, but we want smart growth, and we want sustainable growth. And we know that people moved here 15, 30 years ago with a perception of this is, but we also know things are changing. And Meriwether County has to adjust to those changes. I guess what I'm trying to get clarity on, once again, is your definition of a subdivision, and if you're doing it in 2 phases, it's still a subdivision. Whether you're doing it in 1 phase or the other, and if you're only zoning one part of it, then you come back to the other part, the requirements of that subdivision around the dirt road doesn't still apply. And I guess that's what I'm trying to get clarity on.
Because our ordinance states a subdivision cannot come out onto a dirt road, then therefore that takes that part out of the equation, is my understanding.
So it wouldn't matter if you're doing it all together or separately, you've still got a problem because you got a dirt road. But I think our point is we're considering phase 2 right now. We're doing it, and it's improper because it's not before the board.
I'm just saying,
And
we
none of
shouldn't
these-
be talking about
None
waste.
None of the, I understand, and I'm not, okay.
I brought up the question, and said you
Okay.
could address me,
Sure.
but please don't put words in my
I'm
mouth
not,
as you just did.
yes, sir, I'm sorry.
That's okay, but please don't do that, because I'll sit here and
I
I'll listen all day long, and I'll be
understand.
very compliant with you. But what I'm saying is, you brought it up about the 5 acres, and yes, it may not be, but I wanted that clarification that he put on record today, is why I brought that back
I
up.
understand, and I wasn't addressing it to you. It's just our concern as a whole is that there should be one master plan. That's our concern as a whole, not that there's anything improper.
Right.
I probably worded that incorrectly. On my rebuttal time, can I make one more point?
Just do that, 2 minutes.
If the board feels that it's appropriate, there are a lot of people who came here today in opposition to this that aren't going to speak, but I would just, if you feel that it's appropriate, could we just have them stand just so that you can see the amount of people that are here in opposition?
Well, but that's not necessary
Okay.
because everybody's wearing the red shirt.
The red shirt, yeah.
And so that's fine. And then once again, part of our procedure and protocol
Right.
is if you want to speak, you had an
I
option, you
understand.
can sign up.
I
So
understand. Yeah.
once again,
Okay,
you know,
that's all.
we can do
I just, thank you very much.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it.
Thank you.
This phase 2 would be on our records, one traffic lane. There'd be no division in this. It would show up on our tax records as one track.
So that means when you're doing phase 1 and that initial track, then that will have a separate parcel.
We'll have a separate parcel, it'll be one.
Because we're rezoning that now, it sets a
Yes.
separate parcel.
Right, it'll become a separate parcel, and they will sell all of this there if it's approved. They'll sell this, but this will remain as a...
LDR, that's LDR. Alright. If there's no one else to have any comments on anything of that nature, I'd like to ask for a motion that we come out of public hearing and go back into our regular session.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion by Commissioner Hatley and a second by Commissioner Threadgill, going back into our regular session. We're coming out of public hearing. I'd like to ask for a vote that we go back into regular session. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carried. We are now back into regular session. Miss Mary, this one is in my district. Yes, it is. First of all, I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to be a part of our public hearing. It has been a very long night, and I thank you for your patience in sitting through it. As you can tell, these are not easy procedures, but they are procedures that are required. I have received several emails, several calls. I have been invited to go out and look at the site, and I've talked to several people regarding this. So as I make my statements, I want you to realize that I'm taking everything into consideration. I understand the passion for those who have shared that they've moved here 15, 20 years ago, whatever the amount of time. And when you came here, there's some people here that are native, have lived here all their life, and have lived in this community. It is part of my community. My family comes from this area as far as my husband's side of the family. So I understand the passion that you have about your community. But I also know as Meriwether is growing, just like our surrounding counties, people are going to be moving into our area. And as they move here, their desires may be the same as yours, they may be different. But they too are looking for a quality of life. And sometimes that quality of life may vary. Some people will be able to live in a $300,000 home, some people will be able to live in a $200,000 home. But the fact is that we want to meet the needs of everyone that wants to move into our county. But we also want to be cognizant of those that have been here for a while. So in saying all of that, I do know the importance of growth. I also do know the importance of stability. And one of the things that's most important to me is that we stay true to our comprehensive plan and that we also, as a board, look on our growth going forward. I do have some conditions that I like to propose in either way the board goes. Once again, I mentioned them earlier, that there is a main entrance to indicate subdivision and identify. I also think for this area and for the number of homes that are being built, we have other builders in this area. I do want to also address this. All your builders coming into your community are not going to live in your community. 90% of them don't. They come from other areas, they see an opportunity, and they want to come into your communities. I heard someone say they don't live here. That's true everywhere you go, whether you're in Coweta, true. A builder sees an opportunity, he wants to provide a product and a service that will help a community grow, and they do that based on that need. So there is a need to provide some affordable and sustainable home in Meriwether County. However, because of the types of homes that are being built in this area and the square footage of those homes, I definitely think 1,600 square foot minimum would be advantageous for this. Just to be in compliance with some of the other homes that are being built in the area. I went back to see what the homes are being built in Park Pines and other areas, and I just noticed, and it's just my personal observation, that the homes that had more square footage kind of stayed more occupied. The ones with less square footage wind up being in foreclosure a lot, and that's just a summary. I'm not stating it as a fact, I can't prove it, but I did go back and pull up the homes and the sales in Park Pine and in the subdivision down on Lucasville Road. So I would like to ask for a 1,600 square foot minimum in the housing. I too am concerned about the traffic study. I think it still needs to be done. You've already addressed the issue about silt fencing and erosions, and we do know that that is done, but once again, it's, I don't know what the board is after the fact. But one of my other concerns is that in the process of building out any subdivision, one of the challenges we've had in this county is the maintenance and the upkeep of the roads. So I want to address this to our attorney. This is an existing road.
Correct.
That's going to have a lot of traffic. If you are building, normally in a subdivision, not always, but normally you have a road that you cut in to define it as your subdivision. This is not the case. You normally have some kind of bonding to make sure you meet those criteria of that road. In the event this is not the case, and there's serious damage to that road, is there anything the county can do or ask to make sure that in that process, on the shoulders, whatever, that we can address that?
You're talking about bonding, and that's typically done in the building of new roads. It's not, as you mentioned, done on an existing road.
Okay.
Larry, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you can make a condition that they repair any damage to the road as part of your approval of the rezoning for the purpose of the
During the construction process.
During the construction process on it.
Well, sure, before you make the motion or anything, I do want to ask one question, Mike, you can tell me if I'm out of line. But, Mr. Byrd, you agreed to the 1,450, 1,800. The one question I didn't ask when I had you in front of us is, do you have a rough estimate of how many of these you could build on that particular setup?
Rough estimate, what?
How many 1,450 square foot would you
It'd
propose?
probably be about half and half. I mean, it's really if we write a pre-sale and somebody wants one with a bonus room, without a bonus room, it's really what people can afford.
So if we put it in there tonight that it will be 1,450 to 1,800 square feet, we need, no, the original was 1,450, so I'm asking my questions. Are we guaranteed from you that there's going to be some of those 1,800 square foot houses in there?
Yes.
I understand you just got put into the pennies.
If you wanted to address that, you could say that of the 7 lots, that only so many of those could be at 1,400, everything else has to be larger. I think you could probably do that.
make that condition to
So once again, the condition, but, I'm going to make a motion, but I understand, and it's the question that Commissioner Threadgill has brought up, but I'm also looking at the other homes that are being built in the area. And the square footage is a little bit more. Once again, we're looking at, and I'm sure you build quality homes. That's not the issue here. The issue is consistency and conformity in the area. So.
Well, I do know we asked about the 1,600 square foot building, and he said he wouldn't be able to do that as a minimum. So he made that statement.
So we're looking,
I'd rather do a range of the thing and then do a minimum of each thing. That you can't have so many at the low end, and that gives you some of each square footage.
So there's 7 lots.
No more than 4 or 3 or whatever. I mean, my issue is whatever is kind of sitting there. If you guys, and make sure I'm right, Michael, you don't put it in this condition, then you really going to have a harder time.
Correct.
well, I understand that. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm bringing up the minimum
I understand.
size,
Madam Chair, if you're going to make it a condition, I think, and you're trying to part and parcel it, you'd make it in some fashion similar to, at least half would have to be, or could no more than half to be under.
Right, well, I didn't even look at the
Under your
1,600 because he made the statement he couldn't do that as a
He could
minimum.
build, whether there's 7 lots, he could build 4 of them, but not the other 3 without going over the 1,600 threshold.
Say that again?
So you'd want to make it the condition as a minimum that could not go under, if that's a condition you want to do.
Not
So for
under.
instance, no more than half could be under 1,600 square feet. That way, it would only be, he can build 4 at the 1,450 that he says feasible. The other 3 would have to be 1,600 or above.
I would put 1,450 in there as well.
I'm just even it out to 1,500.
With a minimum of 14, with a minimum of 14.
I mean, whatever you guys want
Read
to
it
do.
out to 1,500? Okay. Condition
I
under
don't think we
1,500.
can just do that. We've already asked the man what he could do on square footage, and I think we have to go based off of that.
Not really. We are the ones who make the
We
final
are, but I
decision.
think if he says he could walk away, and I'm not trying to push this, I'm just saying, I think when the man said he couldn't do 1,600, but he could do 1,450.
Maybe you could do 15.
Well, I think the reason that I'm concerned about that amount is I also see what homes are being built in that area. And the average home in that area is right around 1,600, and give or two, take a few. We've got 4 that's being currently built. We've got 3 that's already been built. We've got 4 coming up, and they're in that price, and they're in that square footage range. Am I correct, Kathy?
Coming on Gold Mine,
Yeah.
those are 2,500 plus.
Yeah, much bigger. And then the following other ones. So once again, we have zoning for a reason, and part of that is also to look at the area and being conformed to that area. So we know the growth is coming, but once again, this has already been discussed, when you have a high-density area, like in a municipality, they normally can support a small acre lot or 1 acre lot. But when you're, once again, in a low-density area, and the majority of the homes are coming 2 acre lots, then once again, just being in conformity with what's currently being
Well, look, I
done.
want everybody to walk out of here tonight and be happy. I really agree with you. And I know that you were still talking, but I think there are some things that need to be said, and I'm going to say it. And some people like it, some people won't, but that's just me. So, we had a gentleman that requested a rezoning, and he had an addition. We had concerns, and we listened. The gentleman came back and was willing to renegotiate and change to try to accommodate people. Now, we have this Board of Commissioners trying to renegotiate a third part for this gentleman. So I think there is a point where we have to listen to what people say when they come before us, and we have to figure out a way to do this. And it's not a win-win situation for every side, but we've got to come to the closest part we can to make everybody in this county happy. And that's what we want to do. But I do think we have to listen. I don't think we should throw in what we want after we've already had this open public hearing and heard both sides and heard the statements from both sides. I think our decision should be based on the fors and the opposed not what we personally pay. That's it.
Thank you for your comments, Commissioner Threadgill, and maybe some of the statements I made, I should have made it at a different time. However, my statement was once again to listen to everyone and get clarity, and also knowing what is in that area currently and what's being proposed in that area. I'm trying to look at everything. So at this time, I'd like to put a motion on the floor that Phase 1 we accept with the new condition of 2-acre lots. My conditions would be that there's a main entry into the subdivision, landscape and identified by name of the subdivision. I also want to indicate that under conditions for the square footage, that nothing under 1,600 square feet, or, I'm sorry, what was that? You told me about
It depends on what you're trying to do.
I'm just trying to...
Theron was suggesting earlier, what I was trying to give you a recommendation for, is you could say that no more than half
Okay.
under a certain square footage.
So what I want to say, no more than half will be under a square footage of 1,500 square feet. I also want to indicate that,
And do you want the other part?
With a minimum of 14.
a minimum of 14. No, okay, wait a moment, I got a little confused. The minimum,
You can have a minimum of 1450, but no more than half could be under 15.
under 15, okay. All right, so we got that.
And you can go up to whatever.
Yeah, you can go up to whatever you want. Okay. I'm still in my motion, I'm just trying to make sure I apologize, but it is so much information, I'm just trying to make sure that I have my clear head in the minimum. We're asking out of these initial lots that half of them comes under, at least have a minimum of 1,500 square feet. Okay, all right. So,
And then do we need to make a motion to include the other three, not to be a minimum of?
It would be one condition. I think this is how she's trying to articulate the condition, is that the minimum square footage for all lots would be 1,450, with at least half exceeding 1,500 or not coming in less than 1,500.
Because I thought we were saying
yeah, that's what I'm saying.
half at the 15.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Are those the numbers you
Right.
And that would be the condition as proposed.
Have you made it clear enough for you, Beverly?
Nope.
Mike, let Michael say it again.
Let's Michael say it again.
Take 2-acre lots, and if there's a few of them now that was not quite 2 acres.
Yeah, we
So that's okay.
agree with that. All right.
So the condition that Madam Chair was putting out there, if I'm understanding it correctly, is that the minimum heated square footage would be 1,450 square feet, with at least half exceeding 1,500 square feet, or not coming in less than 1,500 square feet.
Less than.
And did the lots that we're talking about, the 1.9 on are lot 12, 13, and 14?
No, that's not it. I mean, that's like a 50 square foot difference for all 7 lots. Here's what I propose, and Shirley will let me make it, and you tell me if it's what you want. I'm sorry, y'all. What we had talked about earlier was 7 lots, making half of those 1,450, the other half 1,800 or above. Is that what we just? No, I said 1,800 a minute ago.
1,800.
He said he was going to do 1,800, and he couldn't do 1,600 on the minimum, but he could do half at 1,450, and some of their houses go up to 1,500. I would like to see it at a minimum of half of those at 1,450, the other remaining at 1,800 minimum.
You got 7 lots.
Right, that'll give like 4 and 3. 4 and 3. Okay. Because I think
But
we
if
have to
he-
set the minimum of all lots. Okay.
That's the minimum, that's not the max.
Right. So a minimum of 1,450 square feet on 4 lots.
4 lots.
4 lots, and the remaining lots, minimum square foot of 1,600.
I think
Minimum.
1,800.
You said 18.
Yeah, he said 18.
Okay.
All right, so that is in a motion.
Is that how you want
Let me,
it?
That's fine.
can I make sure? that we
Let's
have-
make sure.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got,
7 lots.
7 lots, 4 of which are minimum of 1450, and the remaining lots will be a minimum square footage of 1,800 square feet. You also wanted a sign, an entrance sign, signifying the subdivision.
That it is a subdivision.
Right. And was there any other conditions?
Did you say anything about landscape around the side?
Well, you know, if you have a main entrance to subdivision, you have a landscape and you identify the name of the subdivision. I do, you know, once again, I brought it to the board, but, you know, listening to everyone, I still think if there's a traffic study on the deceleration lane off of 54, I'm really concerned about the traffic coming on to 54. But, you know, if we can't put a condition on that, we can't do the same big thing.
What I can do with that is to forward the development plan to GDOT and ask them to look at it.
Okay.
I doubt very seriously that they're gonna have any ACL, DCL based on this number of developments.
That's fine.
But I could get GDOT to look at it and it's clearest to say it does not need
Okay, that's fine. I'm acceptable with that. We're now going from Wells, so right now he's indicated he's not going to be doing anything with the cities. So other than that, and we've been told during the construction of the road that there's some bonding during the construction on Rosalie Road.
Just that what he would do
What,
is
just
he
the
would be
part?
responsible for any damages he makes.
It wouldn't be bonded.
Not bonded, but just the construction of the road during the time that he is doing work
If he
on it.
comes out, he has a concrete truck that comes out and they break half the road off, he would be responsible.
That's
Fix
what
Let
I'm,
me clarify a point. Madam Chair, I heard you say that we are rezoning to RD, minimum lot size that was presented to us. We're gonna have 4 houses, 1,450 feet minimum, and there'll be at least 3 1,800 feet minimum.
Right.
I second.
And
Wait,
one more thing,
wait.
the 1.9, there are 3 lots that are 1.9. We need to be able to.
Well, let's go ahead and make that, accept that as RD.
Right.
yeah. All right, and then the other thing is about the road. That's
Accept responsibility for anything on them.
And that's where any building coming in.
Well, it should be, but it hasn't always been. That is all of that in the motion. Is a second? I got a second by Commissioner McCoy. At this time, is there any other discussion? If not, I'd like to ask for a vote. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Once again, we want to thank everybody for this. It was definitely.
A long time.
We got
Yeah.
I did not.
My copy, you get.
All these things.
I'm gonna put it in there and put it with
Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a 4-minute break.
the new one. I do have the new one.
We got 3 more items.
I just want to make sure that the other.
Did you get a copy of that package?
He just gave me his. Is Brian leaving? Brian, are you leaving?
What? Appreciate it. Yeah, you're right.
It was a pleasure.
And I've got
Agenda, there's no unfinished business. The next item is council, the board of commissioner meeting scheduled for December the 24th, 2019, which is Christmas Eve. So can I get a motion? Oh my God, oh no.
Where's Brian?
No. Okay.
I needed to
That's
get
new
you
business.
sign this thing right.
Can I get a motion that we agree to cancel the meeting on the 24th? Is there a second? All right, there's a motion by Commissioner Hadley and second by Commissioner McCoy. All those in favor, can I get a vote? Vote carries. Now, I see where I made a mistake.
No, I just had one other item on there. I was gonna say that we regularly would have had a scheduled public, hearing that we would have needed. And we, got the applicant to continue.
Well, I know the sheriff wants this one. We amended the agenda to include under new business, the approval and the signs that GDOT lists numbers 119-119, listing on roadways for the use of speed detection device. Do you need to go over that, or we just need to vote on it?
That allows for the radar in the
Okay,
cities.
so that's radar in the city, so, and in the municipality, so.
We all have to sign that or something?
Yes, all of them.
So at this time, we get a motion on the floor. Second. So there's been a motion by Commissioner McCoy, second by Commissioner Gray. Any more discussion? If not, I'd like to call for a vote. All in favor? Motion carries.
I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Who did the motion on that?
I did, Mayor, sorry.
So the request by Public Works to surplus a 1994 Caterpillar DHH2 tractor for trailer.
Yes, ma'am. This is a bulldozer, it's a large bulldozer.
It don't work this
We
time.
don't use it often, we want to see about a trade-in for a better experience.
That's fine, it don't work. All right. I'd like to get a motion on the floor that we go ahead and surplus this 1994 Caterpillar.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. So who motioned?
I got a motion.
Mary made it and.
Mary made it.
And
Beth
if
seconded.
there's no other discussion, I'd like to ask for a vote. All in favor? Motion carries.
Miss Mary, did you make that one?
Yes,
I
yes,
didn't hear you. I heard you.
Mary did, she got it.
Report from the finance director.
We're in good shape. If you got any questions, call me.
Report from the county administrator.
I don't have
Can we get a copy of the report from the county commissioner?
Yes, give her this.
Commissioner Gray, do you have anything?
All I want to say, everybody come out Saturday, big day, Meriwether County.
All right.
I don't have anything. I'll share it at the next meeting. Commissioner Hadley?
Happy Thanksgiving.
Got it. Commissioner McCoy?
Happy Thanksgiving, let's say good night.
Still got some more. All right, so nothing else. Report from the county attorney.
Thanksgiving.
Any public comments, anyone? Thank you.
Thank you for a wonderful lunch.
Okay.
All right.
There is no need for an executive session. We already have one. So at this time, I'd like to talk about future meetings and notices. Once again, the 28th and 29th, we'll recognize Thanksgiving. The office will be closed. Our next commissioner meeting will be December the 11th at 9 a.m. The December 24th meeting has been officially canceled by the board since that's Christmas Eve. December the 24th and the 25th, the office will be closed in recognition of Christmas holiday. January the 1st, 2020 will also be closed in recognition for the new year.
I move we adjourn.
So there's a motion that we're adjourned. Is there a second? So there's a motion and a second. Can I get a vote? All in favor?